Chapter 10:55. Lin Feng had refined 9 archaic Sacred Emperor clones. Among them, the archaic golden-winged Great Peng King had given Lin Feng 3 abilities. The first stage, Golden Wings. The second stage, Void Travel. The third stage, Wings of the World. There were 2 ways to advance. The first was to find the archaic golden-winged Great Peng King's original spirit and refine it. The second was to comprehend it himself. The first method was the simplest, but also the most difficult. Finding the archaic golden-winged Great Peng King's original spirit was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. The second method was even more difficult. It required luck and comprehension. Lin Feng had finally obtained a fortuitous encounter in the sacred ancestors' Tao enlightenment grounds. Coupled with his comprehension, he'd successfully cultivated to the void travel realm. He could travel between different voids. This was an extremely heaven-defying ability. Not only could this greatly increase Lin Feng's speed, but it could also allow him to use this technique in a battle against cultivators. Lin Feng left the sacred ancestors' Tao enlightenment grounds and returned. Many demon experts had come to the Great Peng King's territory during this time. Naturally, many young geniuses had come as well. Just as Jin Xingyuan had said, some of these people had come to avenge the tragic deaths of Granny Chu Yun and the others. However, even more people had their eyes on the sacred fetus in Little Moon's body. Ordinary demon cultivators might not know about the sacred fetus in Little Moon's body, but the higher-ups of the demon race definitely knew. The sect and 3 palaces had mobilized thousands of experts to kill Emperor Taiching's people and capture Little Moon. What was the point of such a big fuss? It wasn't just for Little Moon. It was also for the sacred fetus in Little Moon's Dantian. It turned out that Little Moon had Granny Chu Yun's protection, so the various demon factions wouldn't go too far. Granny Chu Yun was already dead. Little Moon was alone and without anyone to rely on. The greedy hearts of these demon factions began to stir. Once a person's greed was born, it was almost impossible to restrain it. Hurry up and run. The imps are coming. In the distant forest, more than 10 young geniuses of the demon clan ran towards Lin Feng, crying and wailing. What happened? Lin Feng stopped one of them and asked, "Little fiend, that little fiend is here. Run." The other party shouted, pushing Lin Feng aside and hurriedly rushing off into the distance. Rumble! Rumble! The earth trembled, and Lin Feng felt a shadow looming over him. He raised his head and saw a gigantic creature that was 4,000 to 5,000 meters tall. It was even taller than a mountain peak and had 3 ferocious heads. Its cold eyes were staring at him. Cerberus. It turned out to be the legendary hell beast, the Cerberus. Moreover, its body was so huge that it was really shocking. Actually, this wasn't the first time Lin Feng had seen the Cerberus. Back then, he had explored the Eternal Temple with Long Yushi. Long Yushi had a pet like the Cerberus. He quickly dodged to the left, and the Cerberus attack missed. Big Black beat him to death. A beautiful female cultivator in white clothes standing on the Cerberus head shouted excitedly when she saw Lin Feng dodge. Lin Feng was startled. Although he hadn't seen her for almost 10 years, he could still see the shadow of the strange girl from back then. Wasn't this Long Yushi? The Cerberus 3 heads roared and swung its huge claws at Lin Feng again. In the distance, more than 10 geniuses of the demon clan saw this and were moved to tears. What a good person. He helped us attract the attention of the little fiend. Brother, you have to hold on a little longer. If you're unlucky enough to be eaten by the Cerberus, we'll burn more paper money for you. The geniuses of the demon clan didn't dare stay and hurriedly left. The Cerberus attack missed again. Lin Feng disappeared without a trace. Where did he go? Long Yushi's eyes widened with a look of incomparable shock. The next moment, she felt her tiny waist being hugged from behind. "Ah, you bastard! You're courting death! You bastard! How dare you take advantage of me? Do you believe that I won't castrate you?" Long Yushi immediately struggled. At the same time, her heart was in turmoil. Even with her cultivation, she didn't know how that guy had managed to get behind her. This shouldn't be happening. Long Yushi couldn't figure it out. Lin Feng held Long Yushi with one hand so that she couldn't move. His other hand pinched Long Yushi's delicate face and twisted her head. Long Yushi pouted her pink lips. She looked quite cute. "After so many years, your personality hasn't changed at all." Lin Feng smiled at Long Yushi. "Who are you? Do I know you? Let go of me, or you'll regret being born in this world." Long Yushi shouted fiercely, "Take a closer look at who I am." Lin Feng said. Long Yuxiao stared at Lin Feng with her mischievous eyes and suddenly shouted, "Lin Feng, why are you here?" Long Yushi was shocked and pleasantly surprised. Lin Feng said, "After so many years, your body has developed quite well." Long Yushi's soft breasts were pressed against Lin Feng's chest. So Lin Feng could clearly feel that compared to many years ago, her body was naturally very attractive. Long Yushi blushed, then regained her fierce look, and said, "Let go of me, or don't blame me for being impolite. You're in my hands, and you still dare to threaten me? Do you really think that I won't dare to teach you a lesson?" Looking at Long Yushi's tender red lips, Lin Feng lowered his head. Asterisk, woo-woo, asterisk Long Yushi's eyes widened in disbelief. "Ha ha, the fragrance is everywhere." Lin Feng tasted it, then flew away. "Lin Feng, you bastard, I won't let you be a man." Long Yushi wiped her mouth, as if she wanted to wipe off Lin Feng's breath. "Big Black, hurry up and chase him," shouted Long Yushi fiercely. The Cerberus roared and quickly chased after them. At that moment, in the great hall of the Great Rocks, all the strong cultivators of the Yao clan were gathered. They were discussing how to deal with the holy imperial embryo in Little Moon's Dantian. Xie Zichen, the great elder of the three-headed cobra race, said with a fake smile, "The little princess is still young. She can't protect the sacred fetus. We're taking it out for the sake of the little princess's safety. What do you all think?" said Mr. Jean. "The little princess hasn't cultivated yet. If we forcibly take the holy imperial embryo out of her Dantian, the little princess might die. I can't agree to that," said Xue Dingqiu, the great elder of the sky-devouring demon toad. "Elder Jean, the little princess isn't from the Great Rocks. You don't have the right to decide whether or not we can take the holy imperial embryo out of her Dantian. We'll vote. The minority obeys the majority." Chapter 1056. I've known Grandmother Chu Yun for more than 8,000 years. Before she died, she asked me to take care of the little princess. Do you think I have the right to decide whether or not to take the little princess's holy embryo?" said Elder Jean coldly. Xue Dingqiu didn't buy it. He put on a fake smile and said, "Who can prove that you're telling the truth?" Elder Jin's face suddenly darkened, and he said, "Do you think this old man would lie? I think I still care about my reputation." Xie Zichen laughed strangely and said, "We didn't say you were lying. However, even if you're telling the truth, it's hard to know what's in a person's heart. Who knows whether or not you'll take the holy embryo for yourself after we leave?" Xie Zichen, this is the territory of the Great Peng clan. If you keep talking like that, please leave. The Great Peng clan doesn't welcome three-headed cobras, said Elder Jean angrily. Xie Zichen's words had infuriated Elder Jean. He couldn't bear it anymore. "Elder Jean, why get angry? I was just making an example." Xie Zichen pursed his lips. "What do you all think?" Elder Jean gloomily looked at the experts of the other factions. Many chose to remain silent. Elder Jin's heart sank. He said sadly, "Do you still remember the kindness Emperor Taiching showed to the various clans? Now that you're choosing to remain silent, aren't you letting your conscience down? Aren't you letting Emperor Taiching down?" Someone sneered. What was conscience to most people? Practical benefits were what everyone pursued. There are still a few clans coming. Let's wait for them to arrive, and then we'll talk. Princess Shueyao walked over. "Greetings, Princess." The experts of the various clans stood up and bowed slightly. They were both princesses, but Little Moon's status couldn't compare to Shueyao's. Firstly, Little Moon was too young and didn't cultivate. Secondly, Emperor Taiching's clan had declined. Lastly, Little Moon no longer had a protector. Princess Shueyao was different. Although the Phoenix clan didn't have many people, they didn't lack experts in every generation. Princess Shueyao's strength was unfathomable. "Everyone, please dispense with the formalities." Princess Shueyao said. Xue Dingxiu's expression was somewhat gloomy as he said, "Since the princess has spoken, we'll wait for the other clans to arrive before discussing this matter. We'll take our leave first." The experts of these forces left one after another. After everybody left, Mr. Jean said gloomily, "It seems like those people want to steal the little princess imperial fetus." People's hearts are unfathomable. All the influential groups are blinded by greed. They want to steal Little Moon's holy imperial embryo. So let's beat them at their own game. Princess Shueyao sneered. "Princess, what do you mean?" Elder Jean looked at Princess Shueyao. Princess Shueyao smiled and said, "Elder Jean, you'll know in a few more days." After Lin Feng returned, he went to see Little Moon first. When Little Moon saw that Lin Feng had returned, her big eyes immediately turned into crescent moons. She quickly ran over to Lin Feng and reached out her little hands into Lin Feng's embrace. "Big brother, where did you go?" Little Moon misses Big Brother. Little Moon said pitifully. Lin Feng rubbed Little Moon's head and said, "Big Brother went to cultivate. Big Brother needs to become very strong to be able to protect Little Moon." Then, can Little Moon cultivate? Little Moon also needs to become very strong because Little Moon wants to protect Big Brother. "I don't want bad people to bully Big Brother," Little Moon said innocently. Lin Feng said, "Of course Little Moon can cultivate. After a few days, Little Moon can go find Big Sister Shueyao and ask her to teach you how to cultivate, okay?" Little Moon nodded heavily. Dozens of cultivators flew over from the distance and stopped nearby. They pointed at Little Moon and whispered among themselves. Their gazes were cold as they looked at Little Moon. "Big Brother, Little Moon is scared." Although Little Moon was young, she was very sensitive to the outside world. She could feel that the people around her were looking at her with ill intentions, which made her feel afraid. "Big Brother is here. Don't be afraid." Lin Feng took Little Moon in his arms and walked towards the courtyard. "Stop." Suddenly, a cold laugh was heard. Lin Feng turned around and saw a young cultivator in a black robe walking over. He asked indifferently, "What's the matter?" "Are you a human cultivator?" the black-robed cultivator asked. "Yes," Lin Feng said. "A human actually came to the territory of the beasts. You look like a human spy." The black-robed cultivator sneered. Lin Feng's expression suddenly sank. At that moment, Long Yushi flew over from afar. She was holding a miniature Cerberus that had shrunk to the size of a palm. "Shuet Donglong, don't talk nonsense here." The little princess was able to return to the territory of the beasts alive, thanks to Lin Feng. The black-robed cultivator called Shuet Donglong was a young genius of the heaven-devouring demonic Toad clan. His strength was outstanding. The heaven-devouring demonic toad clan had an important position among the beasts. Shwe Donglong sneered. Are the members of the clan and 3 prefectures all trash? How could they let him escape with the little princess? It's obvious that there's something we don't know about. Who would believe that he's not a spy? After saying that, Shwe Donglong looked at the surrounding Yao cultivators and asked, "Do you believe me?" "Of course not. This kid is very suspicious. I don't know what he's up to when he sneaked into the territory of the beasts." The group of beasts began to talk at once. Lin Feng curled his lips and said sarcastically, "I was wondering why this place was so smelly. It turns out that someone was farting here. It's really smelly. Kid, what did you say?" The group of beasts glared angrily at Lin Feng. Shwe Donglong, in particular, was of noble birth. The heaven-devouring demonic toad clan was equivalent to the royal family of the beasts. When he heard Lin Feng's words, he naturally felt that his dignity was being challenged. "You don't understand human language? It seems that I was wrong. It's not a group of humans farting, but a group of dogs farting," Lin Feng said seriously. "Uft." Long Yushi immediately laughed. She admired Lin Feng's ability to mock others. Shwe Donglong and the others' gloomy faces were enough to know how angry they were. However, Long Yushi was also worried about Lin Feng. There was no lack of experts among Shwe Donglong and the others. Shwe Donglong, in particular, was a powerhouse at the 5th level of the creation realm. Moreover, the heaven-devouring demonic toad clan's inheritance was extremely powerful. Now that Lin Feng had angered Shwe Donglong and the others, he probably wouldn't have a good ending. Chapter 10:57. Shwe Donglong and the others were furious after being mocked by Lin Feng. They glared at Lin Feng as if they wanted to tear him to shreds. A tall and sturdy beast with a ferocious face sneered and said, "Brat, do you know you've committed a capital offense? How dare you mock us like this? Who gave you the guts? Kneel on the ground and apologize to us. Maybe you can keep your worthless life. Otherwise, we don't mind taking your life today. You dare attack the Rock King's territory? Why don't you take a piss and look at yourself? Do you think you have the right to be so arrogant in the Rock King's territory?" Lin Feng pursed his lips. "So what if it's the Rock King's territory? The law doesn't punish the majority. Do you think the Rock King's territory will offend so many organizations for a human brat like you?" The Yao cultivators sneered. Lin Feng sneered and said, "I really couldn't tell. I thought you were a pig with a human head. I didn't expect you to say something like, the law doesn't punish the majority. It seems you're not stupid. Brat, I'm going to tear you to shreds," shouted the tall and sturdy cultivator furiously. He threw himself at Lin Feng. "Yushi, help me take care of Little Moon," Lin Feng said. "Be careful. He's from the giant scorpion race. They can release poison." Long Yushi hugged Little Moon and whispered to Lin Feng, "Don't worry. He's just a nobody. I can deal with him easily." Lin Feng smiled. At that moment, the tall and sturdy cultivator rushed over and slapped Lin Feng. A green gas spread out from his palm. The green gas was extremely poisonous. "Hurry up and retreat. Don't breathe in the poison." The group of beast cultivators quickly retreated. They were afraid of the poison released by the tall and sturdy cultivator. Whoosh! Lin Feng blew at the poisonous gas, and it flew towards the beast cultivators. "Brat, you're courting death." Many people roared angrily. They didn't dare to stay any longer and tried to escape in a sorry state. However, there were still a dozen people who were enveloped by the poisonous gas. Their bodies began to rot as they fell to the ground and let out miserable screams. "You can't blame me for this. You can only blame the guy who poisoned you. If he didn't use the poison, you wouldn't have been poisoned." Lin Feng shrugged. Brat, you dare to be distracted while fighting me? The stalwart cultivator grinned and sent out a palm strike. However, Lin Feng blew away the poisonous gas with a single breath. However, the power of his palm was still very powerful. Seeing that the palm was about to hit Lin Feng grabbed his wrist and exerted force. Crack! The burly cultivator's wrist was broken, accompanied by the sound of bones cracking and a miserable shriek. Lin Feng raised his right foot and kicked the burly cultivator's left leg. Crack! His left leg was broken. Too weak, it really dirted my hands to clean him up. Lin Feng pursed his lips and threw the burly cultivator away like he was throwing a dead dog. The burly cultivator's head hit a rock hard. His head cracked and blood flowed out instantly. The burly cultivator didn't move at all. It was unknown whether he was dead or alive. When did this guy become so powerful? Long Yushi couldn't help but mutter. Lin Feng glanced at the group of beast cultivators indifferently. Lin Feng only had coldness towards these people. It was one thing for these beasts to not be grateful for the kindness of the Taiqing Emperor, but now they actually had their eyes on Little Moon. Lin Feng treated Little Moon as his own sister. How could he let these bastards bully her? Who else wants their heads to explode? You can get out now. Lin Feng glanced at the group of beast cultivators. These people looked at Xue Donglong because Xue Donglong was the strongest among them. Moreover, Xue Donglong's background was also the noblest. Obviously, this group of people regarded Xue Donglong as their backbone. Xue Donglong sneered. Kid, you're quite capable, but do you think you can deal with so many of us by yourself? Lin Feng pursed his lips. Don't flatter yourself. Can you even be considered human? Animals know how to repay kindness, but you're heartless and unscrupulous. Just looking at you makes me feel disgusted. I have to say, your mouth is very powerful. You've successfully angered us, but your quick tongue will only bring about endless consequences. Xue Donglong sneered. He waved his hand and said, let's attack together. If that boy dares to resist, we'll kill him. As soon as Xue Donglong gave the order, more than 20 cultivators swarmed towards Lin Feng. Their expressions were extremely cold. All sorts of powerful divine abilities were unleashed towards Lin Feng. The divine abilities gathered together, forming a river of attacks that flooded towards Lin Feng. Slash! Lin Feng's expression was indifferent as he flicked his right hand. Next, a dense sword chi shot out. Uft! Uft! The sword chi broke through the attacks of the beast cultivators and pierced through their bodies. They were all sent flying, coughing up large mouthfuls of blood. He defeated so many people with a single move. Long Yushi was shocked. Only now did she realize that Lin Feng might be much stronger than she had imagined. Devouring the heavens. At that moment, Xue Donglong made his move. A twisting whirlpool appeared and swept towards Lin Feng. The black whirlpool directly enveloped Lin Feng. Lin Feng sneered and reached out with his left hand. His left hand instantly pierced through the twisting whirlpool that Xue Donglong had created. Then he grabbed Xue Donglong's neck and lifted him into the air like he was a little chick. Xue Donglong looked at Lin Feng in horror. He hadn't expected Lin Feng to be so strong. Kid, hurry up and let him go. Otherwise, I'll make you regret being born. More than 10 cultivators flew over from the distance. They were even stronger. A young man with an aquiline nose looked down at Lin Feng and ordered in an unquestionable tone. Third brother, save me. Xue Donglong looked as if he had seen hope when he saw the newcomers. Lin Feng sneered. I'd like to see how you'll make me regret being born. As soon as he finished speaking, Lin Feng raised his right hand and slammed it towards Xue Donglong's dantian. Crack! Shui Donglong's dantian was shattered by Lin Feng, and he was completely crippled. Chapter 1058. Brat, you're courting death, shouted the hook-nosed young man furiously. His eyes were filled with murderous intent. His name was Shui Mushin, and he was considered one of the top figures in the heaven-devouring demonic Toad clan. At that moment, Lin Feng surprisingly dared cripple Shui Donglong's cultivation in front of so many people. It was like a slap to his face. Shui Mushin couldn't control his anger anymore. He glared at Lin Feng viciously. This guy is really daring. He crippled Shui Donglong just like that. Shui Donglong's status in the heaven-devouring demonic Toad clan isn't high, but he's still a direct descendant of the clan. Now that he's crippled, the heaven-devouring demonic Toad clan won't let this go. Of course they won't let this go, so there's going to be a good show to watch. Many of the cultivators in the crowd were discussing. The conflict here attracted more and more people. Many people surrounded them and pointed at them. I've been crippled. How can this be? My life is completely over. Shui Donglong was in despair. If a few of his bones had been broken, he could still recover, but his dantian had been crippled. If he had known this would happen, he wouldn't have provoked this murderous god. He regretted it so much. Shui Donglong was filled with regret, but there was no medicine for regret in this world. Lin Feng threw Shui Donglong to the side and looked at Shui Mushin indifferently. I crippled his cultivation. If you want to kill me, you can do it now. Let's see if you're strong enough to kill me, said Shui Mushin indifferently. Many people frowned when they saw Lin Feng's indifferent expression, because Lin Feng's indifferent attitude made everybody wonder what was going on. Was he confident, or was he arrogant? How could he be so casual in front of an expert like Shui Mushin? The heaven-devouring demonic Toad clan has a foothold in the Tianmu continent. Anyone who provokes us will die. Shui Mushin stepped forward. Lin Feng raised his eyebrows and said, I'll let you know that I won't let anyone who tries to harm Little Moon. Who do you think you are? How dare he say such words? You can't protect anyone. Shui Mushin took a step forward and arrived in front of Lin Feng. Thousand rain, falling stars. Shui Mushin used a powerful immemorial sacred art. As a top prodigy of the heaven-devouring demonic Toad race, his strength was naturally terrifying. After this sacred art was used, rain started to fall. A drop of rain, a star. Rain fell, and stars fell. One star after another smashed towards Lin Feng. What a powerful divine ability. Lin Feng was slightly shocked. In this heaven and earth, there were millions of divine arts. All sorts of powerful divine arts were like a drop of water in the vast sea. Lin Feng didn't find it strange that Shui Mushin was able to grasp such a powerful divine art. Lin Feng stepped forward, and the entire world seemed to have turned into a world of ice. As soon as he used the great ice art, the falling rain was instantly frozen and suspended in midair, unable to descend again. Lin Feng tapped lightly with his right hand. Plop! The attack directly penetrated Shui Mushin's body. Shui Mushin looked like he was struck by lightning. He was blown away, coughing up blood in the air. His face was as pale as a sheet of paper. Clearly, he was severely injured. He defeated Shui Mushin so easily. He's too strong, isn't he? Many people were shocked, and their faces were filled with shock. Shui Mushin wasn't weak. He had a special bloodline. People like that could challenge geniuses who were several levels higher. One had to know that it wasn't rare for a genius to defeat an ordinary cultivator who was several levels higher than him. This was because it was all too common. The most difficult thing was for geniuses to defeat geniuses who were a few levels higher than them. And now, Lin Feng had defeated Xue Mushin, who could also be considered a genius. That was the main reason why people were shocked. You actually injured me. Xue Mushin shouted furiously and soared into the sky. His expression was extremely gloomy. Xue Mushin had never lost so miserably in front of so many people. He felt humiliated and couldn't accept it. Xue Mushin leapt into the air as a destructive shock wave burst out from his body. Terrifying auras surged out from his body. In his dantian, bloody lights intertwined. Xue Mushin was urging his bloodline. The bloodline of the heaven-devouring demonic toad was called the heaven-devouring demonic blood. This bloodline possessed an extremely terrifying ability, which was plunder. It could plunder the essence of a cultivator's flesh and even their lifespan. The bloodline of the heaven-devouring demonic toad was extremely terrifying. It was also the reason why the heaven-devouring demonic toads were able to establish themselves in the continent. Normally, very few people dared to provoke the heaven-devouring demonic toads. They would rather avoid them. The heaven-devouring demonic toads could plunder continuously. They loved to plunder the bloodlines of powerful cultivators. This was because after refining the bloodline of a powerful cultivator, their strength would greatly increase. Little brat, you've awakened my bloodline, but you've also infuriated me. I'll tear you apart and plunder everything from you. I'll use your bloodline to increase my strength. After saying that, Xue Mushin rushed towards Lin Feng. His destructive qi swept in all directions, shaking space and time. A twisting vortex condensed and enveloped Lin Feng. Lin Feng, hurry up and dodge. Long Yushi shouted. Long Yushi's pretty face abruptly changed as she loudly reminded him. She knew how terrifying Xue Mushin's bloodline was. She was worried about Lin Feng. The surrounding cultivators were also paying close attention to the duel on the battlefield. Many people wondered if the battle was about to end. After all, Xue Mushin's bloodline was too strong. You can't retreat, even if you want to. Confine. Xue Mushin waved his hand, and a black vortex surrounded Lin Feng. Lin Feng couldn't move at all. Lin Feng was surprised. Xue Mushin's heaven-devouring demonic blood was similar to his devouring martial spirit. Of course, there was still a big difference between them. Plunder. Xue Mushin smiled coldly and started plundering Lin Feng's flesh and soul. However, he quickly realized that something was wrong, because no matter how hard he tried, Lin Feng's flesh and soul didn't fly out of his body. How is that possible? Xue Mushin opened his eyes wide. Nothing is impossible. In my opinion, you're too weak, said Lin Feng indifferently. He used the ancient dragonesque elephant formula and broke Xue Mushin's constriction. Lin Feng stepped forwards and threw a punch at Xue Mushin. Kacha! Kacha! His punch landed on Xue Mushin's chest, and he was blown away. His chest caved in, and he fell on the ground, motionless. No one knew if he was dead or alive. Everybody was dumbstruck. They couldn't believe their eyes. Xue Mu had awakened his special blood, and Lin Feng had almost killed him in one attack. Everybody was astonished. Chapter 1059. Lin Feng stood with his hands clasped behind his back. His qi seemed to be able to swallow mountains and rivers as he coldly glanced around. Many of the beasts were startled. Nobody dared to look into Lin Feng's eyes. They could sense a domineering aura emanating from Lin Feng. He was able to fight against the 3 prefectures alone for so long and kill over 1,000 of their experts. His cultivation level is really terrifying. Perhaps only the top geniuses would be able to contend against him. Many beasts think that the little princess has no one to rely on, so they want to steal her sacred imperial fetus. But now, it seems like the little princess is very dependent on him. The demonic toad clan, the three-headed cobra clan, and other top beasts are all eyeing the sacred imperial fetus covetously. We don't know how things are going to unfold. Let's just wait and see. Many beasts were whispering to each other. Lin Feng and Long Yushi brought Little Moon back to the courtyard. Not long after, Princess Shui Yao arrived. The beasts have gone too far, Lin Feng said with a frown when he saw Princess Shui Yao. Princess Shui Yao said, "This is how the world works. If Little Moon still had an elder alive, they wouldn't be so impudent. But even Grandmother Chu Yun died a tragic death." Lin Feng sighed. It was just as Princess Shui Yao had said. This was a world that ate people without spitting out their bones. "I plan to take Little Moon and leave." Lin Feng said, "I know you're worried about Little Moon, but do you think the beasts will let you take away the little princess who has the sacred imperial fetus? Even if I agree and Little Moon really leaves with you, will you be able to protect her? You'll be hunted down endlessly," Princess Shui Yao said. Lin Feng remained silent. It was just as Princess Shui Yao had said. With Lin Feng's current strength, he could be considered a strong cultivator and would have no problem protecting himself on the Tianwu continent. But if he took Little Moon with him, only death would await them. Princess Shui Yao said, "Just wait a little longer. Little Moon will be fine." Lin Feng's heart skipped a beat, and he said, "It seems like Princess Shui Yao already has an idea." Princess Shui Yao smiled and nodded, saying, "I do have some ideas, but I'm still waiting for the other clans to arrive." Lin Feng handed Little Moon over to Princess Shui Yao before leaving with Long Yushi, returning to his own residence. Long Yushi looked at Lin Feng and said, "Are you a freak? How did he become so powerful?" Lin Feng asked, "Your cultivation speed isn't slow either, right?" Long Yushi was already at the 9th level of the Yin-Yang realm. Her cultivation speed wasn't slow. Moreover, Long Yushi was called Little Devil by the younger generation of the demon race. It could be seen that she spent most of her time teasing others with her pet, the Cerberus. He didn't pay much attention to his cultivation either. If Long Yushi really cultivated diligently every day, like Lin Feng, his cultivation would definitely not be limited to the 9th level of the Yin-Yang realm. Perhaps she would have soared into the sky and become a manifestation realm expert. However, Long Yushi's personality was like that. Making her cultivate diligently every day was worse than killing her. Perhaps this was what people meant when they said, "Everyone has their own ambitions." Long Yushi pouted and said, "I'm still far from being able to compare to you. Is it because you obtained a lot of treasures? Hurry up and give me some treasures so that I can quickly increase my cultivation." Lin Feng couldn't help but roll his eyes. This was the first time he had seen someone ask someone for treasures in such a righteous manner. However, when he thought of Long Yushi's eccentric and straightforward personality, this kind of behavior was in line with Long Yushi's usual style. Lin Feng took out a 9-colored illusory stone and handed it to Long Yushi. Long Yushi curled her lips and said, "I'm asking you for treasures. Why are you giving me a broken stone?" Lin Feng's mouth twitched. He said, "A broken stone? Beauty, do you know how many people would fight to the death for something like this?" Long Yushi snorted and said, "Then what is this?" "A 9-colored illusory stone." Lin Feng said, "What's a 9-colored illusory stone?" Long Yushi had a puzzled expression. Clearly, she had never heard of an illusory stone before. Lin Feng said, "Illusory stones can be used to forge magic treasures, increase cultivation speed, prevent cultivation deviation, improve a cultivator's physique, widen a cultivator's meridians, expand a cultivator's dantian, and help a cultivator enter a state of enlightenment." Illusory stones are divided into 9 colors. With each additional color, the stone becomes more precious. 9 colored illusory stones are the most precious, but they are also the rarest. There are only about 30 of them in the world, and they are priceless treasures. Since you don't want them, I'll save them." After saying that, Lin Feng moved to put away the 9-colored illusory stone. After hearing Lin Feng's explanation, Long Yushi's eyes shone brighter and brighter. When she saw that Lin Feng was about to put away the 9-colored illusory stone, she quickly reached out to grab it. "Who said I don't want it? Give it back." Lin Feng held the 9-colored illusory stone in his right hand and raised it. He smiled and said, "Who was the one who said it was a broken stone?" Long Yushi snorted. "So what if I said it? I didn't know how precious the 9-colored illusory stone was before, but now that I know, I've changed my mind. I'm now officially informing you that the 9-colored illusory stone belongs to me." Long Yushi jumped to grab the 9-colored illusory stone that Lin Feng had raised. "Hee, I got it!" Long Yushi shouted excitedly after grabbing the 9-colored illusory stone. When she landed on the ground, she staggered and fell into Lin Feng's arms. Lin Feng hugged Long Yushi's sexy body. "You, let go of me!" Long Yushi's body went limp and she struggled. Her face blushed and she lowered her head, not daring to look at Lin Feng. Lin Feng's heart started to beat faster when he saw her bashful and seductive look. When Lin Feng lowered his head and wanted to taste her, Long Yushi pushed Lin Feng away and ran away, blushing. "I won't let you have your way, you bad guy. Humph." After saying that, she ran out of the courtyard. Perhaps it was better to say that she was running away. Boom. An hour later, in the distance, a man wearing a black Chong Pao arrived. A terrifying chi was emerging from his body. He was walking towards Lin Feng's courtyard. "Isn't that Xie Wufeng from the Three-Headed Cobra clan?" Many people were astonished. Indeed, it's him. His chi is so gloomy. Is he going to teach someone a lesson? Let's go and see. Many people exclaimed, and quickly followed behind Xie Wufeng. Chapter 1060. Why did Xie Wufeng come to provoke Lin Feng? Didn't he have a conflict with the heaven-devouring demonic Toad clan? The heaven-devouring demonic Toad clan didn't do anything, but the Three-Headed Cobra clan did. "I'm confused," said a cultivator. Said someone at that moment. "I've heard that a few days ago, Xie Wuyu from the Three-Headed Cobra clan led a group of people to the holy ancestors' enlightenment ground to practice cultivation. They met Lin Feng there. Who would have thought that Lin Feng would have a 9-colored illusion stone? Xie Wuyu and the others were greedy and wanted to steal it. They had a conflict, and Xie Wuyu was beaten half to death. He's still lying on the ground and can't move," said someone at that moment. No wonder Xie Wufeng came to provoke Lin Feng. But the 9-colored stone is too precious. It's a legendary treasure. It's shocking that Lin Feng has such a treasure, said another cultivator. Xie Wufeng was extremely arrogant. He didn't put Lin Feng in his eyes at all. When he saw that Lin Feng hadn't come out, he thought that Lin Feng was afraid. He sneered and said, "Do you think that being a coward is enough? Weren't you very arrogant before? You don't even have the courage to come out now? You really disappoint me." "Xie Wufeng, what are you doing here? You can't fight in the territory of the great rocks." Jin Xinyuan flew over and said in a low voice. Xie Wufeng said indifferently, "He injured Xie Wuyu of the Three-Headed Cobra clan. Does he think that there's no one left in the clan who can fight him? How can the Three-Headed Cobra clan let this matter rest? If we let this matter rest, won't the Three-Headed Cobra clan become a laughingstock in the future?" Xie Wufeng didn't intend to leave. He insisted on attacking Lin Feng. "Brother Xie, I'm afraid that I'll have to disappoint you today. This boy is on the heaven-devouring demonic Toad clan's kill list. Brother Xie, please let me deal with him." In the distance, a skinny young man was walking over. Xue Mutian. Many cultivators gasped when they saw him. Xue Mutian was Xue Mushin's elder brother. He was said to be in the top 10 of the younger generation of the heaven-devouring demonic toad clan. Brother Xue, first come first serve. I'm here first, so I'll take that dog's life, said Xie Wufeng. Said Xie Wufeng. He didn't want to give Lin Feng to Xue Mutian. The main reason for that was because Lin Feng had the 9-colored illusion stone. Xie Wufeng was convinced that Lin Feng had many other precious treasures. If he had the 9-colored illusion stone, then he probably had many other precious treasures. If Xie Wufeng killed Lin Xue Mutian, if Xue Mutian killed Lin Feng, the treasures would have nothing to do with him. Xie Wufeng obviously didn't want to let Xue Mutian kill Lin Feng. Said Xue Mutian, this boy only injured Xie Wuyu, but not only did he injure Xue Mushin, he also crippled Xue Donglong. Your 3-headed cobra clan can't compare to that. Of course, I'll be the one to kill him. Many people were dumbfounded when they saw Xie Wufeng and Xue Mutian arguing. Were they looking down on Lin Feng? Lin Feng hadn't come out yet, but they were arguing about who should kill Lin Feng. Jin Xinyuan looked gloomy. Even though he could order people to drive Xue Mushin and Xie Wufeng away, he knew that wasn't the best way to solve the problem. He went to Lin Feng's courtyard and saw Lin Feng drinking tea alone in the living room. Jin Xinyuan smiled wryly and said, Brother Feng, you're still in the mood to drink tea at a time like this? Lin Feng smiled and said, It's not like the sky is falling. Why should I be in a hurry? The 2 people outside are Xie Wufeng, a strong cultivator from the 3-headed cobra clan, and Xue Mushin, a strong cultivator from the celestial devouring toad clan. They're extraordinary. Their blood has recovered by 50%. They're very famous among the young people. They've come with ill intentions, said Xue Mushin. Jin Xinyuan said gloomily, Big Brother Feng, how about this? I'll send you to the teleportation plaza and take you away from this place. Said Lin Feng, leaving isn't the best way to solve the problem. Besides, if I leave, I don't know what they'll do to little Yu Yang. I won't leave until I'm sure little Yu Yang is safe. But, said Jin Xinyuan. Jin Xinyuan wanted to say something, but he didn't. He knew Lin Feng's personality very well. He knew that Lin Feng was a man of his word. Therefore, Jin Xinyuan didn't say anything. We know you're in there. Come out and die. Do you want us to force you out? Said Xie Wufeng and Xue Mutian. The 2 of them seemed to have reached an agreement. Let's go and meet those 2. Said Lin Feng. Jin Xinyuan nodded helplessly and followed Lin Feng outside. The door of the courtyard opened, and Lin Feng came out. He's out. Many people cried out in surprise, and then became excited. Now that Lin Feng had come out, the 2 sides were going to fight each other. They were happy to see such a scene. It had nothing to do with them, anyway. The more intense the fight, the better. What? Are you here to die too? Said Lin Feng, looking at Xie Wufeng and Xue Mutian. Many people looked at each other, admiring Lin Feng's courage. In the face of 2 experts, Xie Wufeng and Xue Mutian, he actually dared to provoke them. How audacious! I have to say you're arrogant, but you're also stupid, said Xie Wufeng disdainfully. Said Lin Feng indifferently. How am I arrogant? I'm just confident, said Xue Mutian with a cold smile. You can't even differentiate between confidence and arrogance. Fighting someone like you is an insult to our status. Normally, we wouldn't bother to fight with a nobody like you, but now that you've angered us, we don't mind killing you. Lin Feng shook his head. I'm afraid you don't have the ability to do that. Xie Wufeng looked at Lin Feng disdainfully. If I'm not wrong, your special bloodline should have recovered by around 22%. Our special bloodlines have recovered by more than 50%. How are you going to fight us? The more bloodlines you recover, the less powerful you are. Plus, when cultivators fight, it's not just about bloodlines. If your magic power is strong enough and your divine abilities are strong enough, you can ignore all bloodlines. Lin Feng looked indifferent. But what can you do? No matter if it's qi, blood, or spells, you're destined to be crushed by us. Brother Xia, according to our agreement, I'll fight against him. Within 10 attacks, I'll crush him like an ant, said Xia Feng. Said Xue Mutian. Xia Wufeng nodded. The two of them had reached an agreement. After killing Lin Feng, they would split the treasures on Lin Feng, but they didn't know how they would split them. Chapter 10:61. Xue Mutian was extremely arrogant and did not take Lin Feng seriously. He was at the 10th heaven of the creation realm and was a genius who had awakened 50% of his special bloodline. His realm was higher than Lin Feng's, and his bloodline had awakened more than Lin Feng's, so it was normal for him to look down on Lin Feng. Lin Feng said indifferently, "There are always some people who think they're great, but in the end, they realize that their strength is nothing compared to their eloquence. You don't know what's good for you." Xue Mutian's face darkened. He took a step forward, raised his right hand, and executed the heaven and earth universal seal. In an instant, a Dharma power imprint condensed in the void. That imprint descended from the sky and moved straight towards Lin Feng, oppressing him. The Dharma power imprint contained a powerful will that could suppress everything. Good fellow, Xue Mutian actually cultivated the heaven and earth universal seal to the perfection realm. Only when the perfection realm is the divine ability able to emit a will. Immediately, a cultivator exclaimed in surprise. There were 5 stages of divine ability cultivation: entry, small success, great success, perfection, and great perfection. Entry was naturally the easiest. Small success was already relatively difficult. Large success was extremely difficult. In order to cultivate to the great success, one usually needed extremely strong comprehension. As for great perfection, many times it was not only possible to cultivate the divine ability to the great perfection realm. It required opportunity. It was even more difficult to reach the great perfection realm. Not only did it require comprehension, opportunity, and luck. Among the many divine abilities that Lin Feng had cultivated, most of them were cultivated to the great success realm. None of them were cultivated to the great perfection realm. Thus, it was obvious how difficult it was to cultivate the divine ability to the great perfection realm. Xue Mutian's heaven and earth universal seal was indeed very powerful. However, Lin Feng was even more powerful. Even if Xue Mutian cultivated the divine ability to the great perfection realm, he could not hurt Lin Feng at all. In the face of this tyrannical divine ability, Lin Feng raised his right hand and slashed out in the void. A blade radiance immediately flew out and tore apart the heaven and earth universal seal that Xue Mutian had condensed. Lin Feng slapped Xue Mutian across the void. An energy palm print condensed in the void and slapped Xue Mutian. Xue Mutian's expression. Xue Mutian was originally confident that he could suppress Lin Feng. Xue Mutian was not prepared. Lin Feng. But Xue, the divine ability he was using was called Earth Transformation River, was seriously divine ability. Xue Mutian did not expect Lin Feng's palm to be so powerful. It instantly broke his heaven and earth universal seal. Then, the energy palm flew in front of Xue Mutian and slapped towards him. Xue Mutian could not dodge. His body was sent flying by the energy palm. Wah! Xue Mutian spurted out a mouthful of blood and flew a few hundred meters before coming to a stop. Everyone was shocked. Xue Mutian was at the 10th level of creation realm. He was a genius who had awakened 50% of his special bloodline. Yet, he was so easily injured by Lin Feng. The gap between the two was so huge. How is this possible? Xue Mutian was in disbelief. His face was extremely gloomy. Said Lin Feng, raising his eyebrows. I thought you were extremely strong. I wouldn't have thought that you would be so weak. A piece of trash like you dares talk to me shamelessly? Where do you get your courage from? Who would dare to use the word trash to describe Xue Mutian? Before this, no one dared to imagine such a situation. When Lin Feng defeated Xue Mutian with an overwhelming advantage, no one felt that there was anything wrong with Lin Feng calling Xue Mutian a trash. This was a world where the strong set the rules. The strong could look down on the weak. And Lin Feng was the strong. Xue Mutian was the weak. Therefore, Lin Feng could look down on Xue Mutian. Xue Mutian's face was extremely gloomy. He wanted to tear Lin Feng to pieces, but he knew that he was not confident in defeating Lin Feng even if he had awakened his special bloodline. Lin Feng knew what Xue Mutian was thinking, so he said indifferently, "You two can join hands. We can oppress you together. I don't feel like fighting again." "Kid, you're too arrogant. Since you're courting death, don't blame us for being merciless." When he finished talking, Xie Wufeng threw himself at Lin Feng. Xue Mutian also rushed over. Xue Mutian said, "This kid is strange. Awaken your bloodline to deal with him." "Okay." Xie Wufeng nodded. Boom, boom. Two terrifying auras spread out from Xue Mutian and Xie Wufeng's bodies. They had awakened their special bloodlines at the same time. Xie Wufeng's special bloodline was the demon snake bloodline. It was extremely powerful. When Xie Wufeng's bloodline awakened, the phantom of a 1,000-meter-long three-headed cobra appeared behind him. Demon snake bloodline ability. King of demon snakes. Xue Mutian's special bloodline was his family's devouring demonic blood. Although they were both devouring demonic blood, Xue Mutian's special bloodline, which had awakened 50% of his bloodline, was much stronger than Xue Mushin's. Xue Mushin's special bloodline had only awakened 30%. Seal. A black whirlpool formed and enveloped Lin Feng. The devouring demonic blood was very terrifying. Ordinary special bloodlines had only one ability, but the devouring demonic blood had two abilities. However, Xue Mutian did not use the ability to plunder. Instead, he used the ability to seal. He used all his strength to seal Lin Feng and let Xie Wufeng attack Lin Feng. When Lin Feng was sealed, the king of demon snakes had already pounced towards Lin Feng. Why isn't Lin Feng moving? Could it be that his movements had been completely restricted? If that's the case, he's dead. Many cultivators cried out in alarm. Xie Wufeng and Xue Mushin's joint attack was too terrifying. Many people thought that Lin Feng would not be able to escape this time. Just as the king of demon snakes was about to swallow Lin Feng raised his right hand and pressed down slightly. In an instant, the black vortex that enveloped his body and the king beast snake's body that was attacking him instantly shattered. Xue Mushin and Xie Wufeng looked as if they had been struck by lightning. A suppress word condensed in the air. This was an attack condensed by Lin Feng's great suppression art. The suppress word instantly bombarded the two of them. Plop, plop. The two of them could not withstand it. They knelt on the ground. Heavens! He suppressed two top demon race geniuses with a raise of his hand. Who is this Lin Feng? How can he be so terrifying? The sound of people sucking in cold breaths could be heard. Countless eyes turned pale. with fright as they looked at the handsome young man standing proudly in the void. Chapter 1062. Ah, how dare you humiliate us like this? You might as well kill us. Xie Wufeng and Shui Mutian's faces were twisted. They were the top geniuses of the monster race. They were high and mighty and were admired by countless people. But now they were kneeling on the ground and humiliating themselves. This was worse than killing them. Everyone knew that Xie Wufeng and Shui Mutian were done for. Their confidence had been completely destroyed by Lin Feng. Once a cultivator's confidence was destroyed, how could they cultivate in the future? Many people could already see the scene of Xie Wufeng and Shui Mutian falling step by step from being geniuses to being destroyed. There were countless examples like this in the world of cultivators. How many geniuses didn't manage to grow up? There were many reasons for this, and many people lost their minds because of setbacks which ruined their future. Kill you? No, 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 it's meaningless to kill you. I'll make you kneel here for 3 days and 3 nights so that everyone can watch you. I'll also let the 2 of you serve as a warning to those who don't know what's good for them, that I'm not someone they can offend. Lin Feng sneered. He kept changing his hands, and runes appeared one after another. These runes wrapped around Shui Mutian and Xie Wufeng's bodies, and together with the Great Suppression Art, they were completely suppressed. Xie Wufeng and Shui Mutian roared like wild beasts. Their hearts were filled with humiliation. They couldn't bear the strange looks from the cultivators around them. They were so angry that they kept vomiting blood. Is he suffering from qi deviation? Once a cultivator suffers from qi deviation, their meridians will be twisted and their dantian will crack. In the future, their cultivation will drop greatly. I really didn't think that Xie Wufeng and Shui Mutian's endurance would be so weak. They've already suffered from qi deviation so quickly. These 2 have always been high and mighty, but now they're kneeling here and being watched by everyone. It's normal that they can't bear the humiliation. I don't think it's strange. Lin Feng is too strong. I think he's already a supreme genius. He can compete with the strongest cultivators in history. Yes, I think so too. Lin Feng, the 3-headed Cobra clan, and the heaven-devouring demonic Toad clan are probably going to fight to the death. I wonder what's going to happen next. Many cultivators discussed in low voices. At this time, Lin Feng and Jin Xingyuan had returned to the courtyard. Jin Xingyuan smiled bitterly. I didn't expect you're already so strong. Lin Feng smiled. Sooner or later, you'll become stronger too, said Lin Feng. But the 3-headed Cobra clan and the heaven-devouring demonic Toad clan will definitely take revenge on you. Those 2 clans have been contacting the other clans. They want to steal little Yu's imperial holy embryo. Since that's the case, I don't need to be polite to them. Besides, I'm alone. I'm like a bird flying in the sky and a fish swimming in the sea. Even if I have a falling out with those 2 clans, it doesn't matter. I want to leave, but they want to keep me here. Lin Feng said, Brother Feng, you're really free and easy. With you protecting the little princess, those 2 clans should restrain themselves. Jin Xingyuan said. While Lin Feng and Jin Xingyuan were talking, more and more cultivators gathered outside. They were all pointing at Xie Wufeng and Shui Mutian, who were kneeling on the ground. Their faces were distorted, and they kept roaring like wild beasts. It was as if they had gone crazy. Many strong cultivators from the 3-headed Cobra clan and the heaven-devouring demonic Toad clan arrived as well. When they saw Xie Wufeng and Shui Mutian, they all looked gloomy. That brat is bullying the heaven-devouring demonic Toad clan. Does he really think that we won't dare kill him? Shui Dingqiu's voice was filled with killing intent. Xie Zichen's face was gloomy as well. That brat dares provoke our clans. Let's attack him and kill him. Xie Zichen's eyes were filled with killing intent. Elder Jean and the others walked over. According to the rules of Tianwu Continent, the older generation of cultivators can't get involved in the fights between the younger generation. Do you want to go against the rules of Tianwu Continent? Said Elder Jean indifferently. You. Xie Zichen and Xue Dingxiu's faces fell. There was indeed such a rule in Tianwu Continent, but in reality, many groups didn't follow the rules. Most people didn't care about such things. But since Elder Jean had said it in front of so many people, if they went against the rules of Tianwu Continent, it would be taboo. If they wanted to attack Lin Feng, they couldn't do it in the territory of the Great Rocks. They had to do it in private. It seems like Elder Jean wants to help an outsider against us, said Xie Zichen coldly. Xue Dingxiu nodded. Xue Dingxiu said, ambiguously, that Brat's identity is very suspicious. Elder Jean, don't be blinded by him. You might end up getting yourself involved. Elder Jean said indifferently, you don't need to worry about that. Elder Xue. After pausing for a moment, Elder Jean turned to Xie Zichen and said, as for the outsider you mentioned, I'm sorry, but in my opinion, Lin Feng is closer to our clan. Elder Jean had directly expressed his support for Lin Feng in front of so many people, making Xie Zichen lose face. Evidently, Elder Jean didn't care at all. Because of Little Moon, he hated the three-headed Cobra clan and the heaven-devouring demonic Toad clan. Elder Jean is really bold. I admire you very much. I only hope that you won't regret your words in the future. Xie Zichen said coldly, you should worry about your own clan's disciples. Elder Jean replied with a cold smile. Humph. Xie Zichen harumphed coldly and looked at Xie Wufeng and Xue Mutian, who were kneeling on the ground. Xie Zichen's expression darkened. He naturally knew the consequences of going berserk. He also knew that Xie Wufeng's future was ruined. His killing intent towards Lin Feng grew even stronger. Xie Zichen's expression darkened. He turned to Xue Dingxiu and said that Brat used a formation to suppress them. Brother Xue, you're proficient in formations. Can you break this formation? Of course. Xue Dingxiu nodded. His expression was also extremely gloomy. His killing intent towards Lin Feng was even stronger than Xie Zichen's. However, Xue Dingxiu also knew that he should save Xie Wufeng and Xue Mutian first. Lin Feng could only wait for a good opportunity to deal with them. Xue Dingxiu stepped forward and walked towards Xie Wufeng and Xue Mutian. Xue Dingxiu is a heaven-rank formation master. Lin Feng wants to suppress Xie Wufeng and Xue Mutian for 3 days. Looks like he won't be able to do it. Yeah, a heaven-rank formation master. It should be quite easy for him to break Lin Feng's formation, right? Many cultivators discussed softly. Although Lin Feng was very strong, they didn't think highly of Lin Feng's formation skills. After all, a person's energy was limited. Lin Feng was so young. It was already very difficult for him to raise his cultivation. It was too difficult for him to raise his level as a formation master. Break. Xue Dingxiu's hands were moving, talismans condensed, and moved towards Lin Feng's deployment marks. Xue Dingxiu wanted to use talismans to destroy Lin Feng's deployment marks. That was the simplest way to destroy deployment spells. It was as easy as crushing dry weeds. Normally, only high-level formation masters would use this method to break a low-level formation. Chapter 1063. When Xue Dingxiu's palm landed, all kinds of runes were condensed and swept towards the runes arranged by Lin Feng. Its power was truly astonishing. Many people exclaimed in surprise. They were shocked by Xue Dingxiu's mastery of spirit arrays. Buzz. At this moment, the runes arranged by Lin Feng had been activated. The runes seemed to have awakened as they twisted in the void. Then, like Dragons, they swung their tails and whipped towards Shue. Puff! The runes condensed by Shue couldn't withstand the attack of Lin Feng's runes, and were directly broken by the runes. Then, the runes arranged by Lin Feng continued to attack Shue. Shue expression suddenly changed. He didn't expect the runes arranged by Lin Feng to be so powerful. The surrounding cultivators were even more dumbfounded. What was going on? How could the runes of Shue, a heaven stage spirit array master, be broken by the runes condensed by Lin Feng? Could it be that Lin Feng was an even more powerful spirit array master than Shue? Thinking of this, many people's hearts were filled with shock. A person's energy was limited. Lin Feng's battle strength was already so tyrannical. If his attainments in spirit arrays were also so profound, wouldn't it be too heaven-defying? Thinking of this, many people felt that it was unreal. However, everything that was happening in front of them seemed to be telling them that it was all real. Lin Feng was indeed a more powerful spirit array master than Shue. The runes swept over. Shuedingqiu's expression was gloomy as he sent out more than a dozen palm strikes to block the attacks of the runes. Bang! The two sides collided several times, and Shuedingqiu was actually forced back. Isn't the runes arranged by Lin Feng too powerful? Not only were the ordinary cultivators shocked, but even Elder Jean and the others were shocked. After Shuedingqiu was forced back, his face turned green and red. He couldn't help but grit his teeth. Shuedingqiu hated Lin Feng even more because Lin Feng's deployment marks had forced him to retreat and humiliated him. Extremely strong cultivators cared about their reputation a lot. Wasn't that the saying, "Face is the most important thing in life"? Was that what Shuedingqiu wanted to say? Lin Feng was furious. The runes arranged by this brat are so powerful, it seems that we need to work together, Shuedingqiu said. Shuedingqiu's lips twitched. He originally wanted to say that he could handle this matter by himself. But in the end, Shuedingqiu didn't say those words. That was because he really couldn't do it himself. Shuedingqiu said calmly, "All right, I'll let Brother Xie work with me. Brother Xue, you'll suppress those runes while I release the runes. I'll take the opportunity to break those runes. The runes are all linked together. As long as I break one rune, the rest will be easily broken." Xie Zichen nodded. "All right, let's do it." After that, the two of them walked towards Shui Muqian and Xie Wufeng. Lin Feng's deployment is really powerful. I wonder if Shuedingqiu and Xie Zichen can break it if they work together. I think they can. After all, they're so strong. It'll be much easier for them if they work together. I don't think they can break it. They're really strong, but many deployment spells are mysterious and unfathomable. You can't break them just because you're strong. You need to find the weak points of the deployment spells to break them. Lin Feng's deployment spells are very difficult to find. At least, with Shuedingqiu's level, it'll be very difficult to find the weak points. Many people were discussing. Some thought that Shuedingqiu and Xie Zichen could break the deployment spells, while others thought that they couldn't. At that moment, Shuedingqiu and Xie Zichen arrived in front of Shui Muqian and Xie Wufeng. Xie Zichen attacked with his palm, attacking the deployment spells around Shui Muqian and Xie Wufeng. Swoosh! Those deployment spells seemed to have a life of their own. They instantly came to life and attacked Xie Zichen. Bang! Xie Zichen was pushed back by the force of the collision. Lines of runes spiraled in the void, wrapping around Xie Zichen as if they wanted to suppress him as well. What a strange formation pattern. "Take my 10,000 arts immeasurable," shouted Xie Zichen coldly. Then he used a powerful divine ability. His hands formed a series of hand seals, and a monstrous amount of spiritual energy surged out. Waves of destructive energy rippled out from his body. A vast ocean appeared in the sky. It was a vast ocean of spiritual energy moving towards the deployment spells. The ocean of spiritual energy was about to suppress the deployment spells. However, the power of these dozen over-array patterns was truly formidable. They managed to pierce through the ocean of spiritual energy. Formation cracking runes. At that moment, Xuedingqiu also attacked. He condensed over 1,000 runes. Those runes were called formation cracking runes. They were used to destroy the structure of a deployment spell. Crack, on the other hand, meant cracking. Of course, it meant a great deployment spell. Formation cracking meant breaking apart a great deployment spell. The formation cracking runes quickly flew towards the deployment spells that Lin Feng had set up. The runes attached themselves to the deployment spells that Lin Feng had set up. An astonishing amount of energy was released from the runes. These runes wanted to completely destroy the deployment spells that Lin Feng had set up. However, to everyone's surprise, the deployment spells that Lin Feng had set up released dark attribute energy that devoured the formation cracking runes. After devouring the formation cracking runes, the deployment spells that Lin Feng had set up became even more powerful. This is impossible. Xuedingqiu couldn't accept what he was seeing and exclaimed, "Devouring runes." This was the first time he had seen such a strange situation. As a heaven-ranked spirit array master, he had never heard of such a thing before. Buzz. Suddenly, the deployment spells emitted an astonishing amount of energy. An illusory figure appeared. "Look, it's Lin Feng's shadow." Many people were shocked. A mere low heaven-ranked spirit array master wants to break my deployment spells. You're overestimating yourself. You'll be suppressed as well. The illusory figure raised his right hand and pressed down on the void. The great suppression spell condensed into the word suppress and moved towards the two of them. Suddenly, Xuedingqiu and Xie Zichen felt as if they were being pressed down by an ancient mountain. They couldn't move. The deployment spells were already moving towards the two of them. Many people were shocked. Could it be that Xuedingqiu and Xie Zichen were going to be suppressed as well? Break. At this crucial moment, the two of them displayed astonishing strength. They worked together to break Lin Feng's great suppression spell and quickly moved 100 meters away to avoid the deployment spells. I said that I'll suppress these two for 3 days, so I'll suppress them for 3 days. Today, I'm too lazy to bother with you two. If you recklessly try to break the deployment spell again, I'll suppress you two as well. Lin Feng's shadow stood in the air with his hands clasped behind his back. He looked indifferent. His words were sonorous and powerful. Who knew how many people's blood was boiling? Who dared to say that they could suppress two ancient giants? But Lin Feng dared to say that. Many people were looking at Lin Feng at this moment. Not only were they in awe, but they were also looking at him with admiration. Humph! Xuedingqiu and Xie Zichen looked gloomy. They couldn't help but snort coldly. However, they didn't continue to attack. Obviously, they had been frightened by Lin Feng's methods and didn't dare to attack again. Many people were moved. They were amazed by Lin Feng's terrifying strength. His real body hadn't appeared yet. Only a dozen deployment spells had scared the two ancient giants. Many people even guessed that if Lin Feng's real body appeared, Xuedingqiu and Xie Zichen wouldn't be able to defeat Lin Feng, even if they joined forces. Chapter 1064. Xuedingqiu and Xie Zichen were too embarrassed to stay any longer and quickly left. Xie Wufeng and Xue Mutian were still kneeling outside Lin Feng's courtyard. However, everyone knew that Lin Feng's grudge with the three-headed Cobra clan and the heaven-devouring demonic Toad clan was getting deeper and deeper. These two clans were not easy to deal with, and would definitely not let this matter rest. Elder Jin came to Lin Feng's courtyard and saw Lin Feng and Jin Xingyuan enjoying tea. He shook his head helplessly and said, "It's already a mess outside, and you're still so relaxed. You're really admirable." Lin Feng smiled and said, "Anyway, whether I show up or not, this grudge will only get deeper and deeper. I have nothing to worry about. These two clans have as many experts as the clouds. You should be careful," Elder Jin said. Lin Feng nodded. Elder Jin stayed with Lin Feng for a while before leaving. 3 days later, the restriction disappeared. Xie Wufeng and Xue Muqian were so angry that they fainted. They were carried away by cultivators from the three-headed Cobra clan and the heaven-devouring demonic Toad clan. The three-headed Cobra clan and the heaven-devouring demonic Toad clan seem to have kept a low profile during this period. However, everyone knew that these two clans were definitely not people who would not retaliate after suffering a loss. They were definitely waiting for an opportunity. Not long after, news spread that the three-headed Cobra clan's Evil Dragon and the heaven-devouring demonic Toad clan's Shuezongxian were rushing to the Great Peng clan's territory. This caused a huge uproar. Even Jin Xingyuan and Long Yushi came to Lin Feng's courtyard to persuade Lin Feng to leave quickly. Evil Dragon and Shuezongxian were both supreme geniuses. Their strength was unfathomable. Even the experts of the older generation were not their match. Now that the two of them had come, it was very likely that they wanted to kill Lin Feng. Many people were paying attention to this matter. Lin Feng did not plan to leave. He was not afraid of anyone. Even if he was facing these supreme geniuses, he was not afraid. What's more, Lin Feng also wanted to find a few top heavens favorites to spar with and test his cultivation level. Princess Xue Yao also came to Lin Feng and said, "I know you won't leave, but you have to be careful of the Evil Dragon and Shuezongxian. They're both pure-blooded cultivators." A pure-blooded cultivator was a cultivator who had a 100% chance of awakening a special bloodline. Lin Feng nodded and said, "I'll be careful of those two." Princess Xue Yao replied, "There are some differences between pure-blooded human cultivators and pure-blooded demon cultivators. Pure-blooded demon cultivators can return to their ancestral roots." "Atavism? What does that mean?" Lin Feng asked. Princess Xue Yao replied, "Bloodline awakening will allow one to obtain a portion of one's ancestor's power. Normally, it refers to obtaining a portion of the first ancestor's power." After hearing Princess Xue Yao's explanation, Lin Feng revealed a shocked expression. This was because the first ancestors of the three-headed Cobra clan and the heaven-devouring demonic Toad clan were emperor-level existences. If one could obtain a portion of an emperor's power, then it would be too terrifying, said Lin Feng. "It seems like the Evil Dragon and Shuezongxian are much stronger than I thought," said Lin Feng. Princess Xue Yao nodded and said, "That's indeed the case. That's why we have to be careful." The next day, Lin Feng carried Little Moon to a beautiful garden in the Devil Race's territory to play. There were rockery and grotesque rocks everywhere, and there was a small bridge with flowing water. Little Moon happily chased after Bibi and the dragon rabbit. She was at the age when she was the most innocent. She was so innocent that it made people fall in love with her. There was a peach blossom garden that was about 100 acres in size. It was very beautiful, and Little Moon chased after Bibi and the dragon rabbit into the garden. Lin Feng smiled and followed them in. He hoped that Little Moon could continue to grow happily like this. Little Moon relied on Lin Feng a lot, and Lin Feng liked Little Moon a lot, so he wanted to protect her. There was an extremely old man in the garden. He was too old, and his body was stooped. There was an aura of death around him, as if he did not have much life left. "Little girl, what's your name?" The old monster was very kind and smiled at Little Moon. "I'm Little Moon," said Little Moon in a clear voice. The old monster was slightly surprised, but then he stretched out his hand and rubbed Little Moon's head, saying, "Go play." "Goodbye, Grandpa." Little Moon politely waved at the old monster. Then she skipped and skipped towards BB and the dragon rabbit, who were not too far away. People live for a lifetime, and plants have autumn. Even though they're blooming now, it's only for a short time. Soon, they'll wither, and in the end, it'll all be for naught. Looking at the blooming peach blossoms, the old monster sighed. Lin Feng walked over and said, "If they've bloomed before, so what if they've withered? I don't care if it lasts forever. I only care about what I once had." The old monster looked at Lin Feng and frowned slightly, saying, "You've worked hard all your life, but in the end, it'll all be for naught. Do you have no regrets?" Lin Feng said, our youth, as long as we work hard. So what if it'll all be for naught? Even if we die, we have no regrets." "Humph, that's a crooked logic. Cultivators cultivate to go against the heavens and seize life. If we die, all our efforts will be for naught. It's better to enjoy life while we're young," the old monster retorted. "To put it bluntly, the older a person is, the more afraid they are of death. You've probably already forgotten the reason you started cultivating, haven't you? Now, you're worried every day that your life is coming to an end. If that's the case, then you'll be muddle-headed as you get older." Lin Feng said indifferently. "Brat, you dare mock me like that?" The old monster was so angry that his eyes widened. When he saw that the old monster was about to explode, Lin Feng didn't dare stay any longer. He ran off, shouting, "I'm not mocking you. I'm just telling the truth." In the blink of an eye, he disappeared without a trace. After Lin Feng left, the old monster smiled and muttered to himself, "It's been a long time since I've seen such an interesting young man. He's right. What's once bloomed, so what if it's withered? I don't care if it lasts forever. I only care about what I once had." Over the next few days, rumors spread throughout the demonic beast territory that experts from the 5 great demonic beast clans would arrive. The 5 great demonic beast clans were the Peacock Clan, the Heavenly Dragon Clan, the Nine-Tailed Fox Clan, the Blood Demon Clan, and the Snow Lady Clan. These 5 clans were all famous demonic beast clans. The Peacock Clan's holy leader had an incredible cultivation base and was one of the top experts on the Tianwu continent. The Heavenly Dragon Clan was a branch of the Dragon Clan and was extremely powerful. The Nine-Tailed Fox Clan was more mysterious, but they had always been powerful. The Snow Lady Clan lived in the snowy mountains of the Snow God province. To the other powers, this clan was full of mysteries. The Blood Demon Clan was one of the more active clans on the Tianwu continent. The blood demon saint of this clan was almost invincible on the Tianwu continent. Chapter 1065. The plaza was filled with people as they prepared to welcome the experts of the 5 great beast clans. Many people had come to watch. The 5 great beast clans could not be compared to ordinary beast clans. Any one of them was comparable to the human clan's archaic clans. Many people were discussing this matter. The arrival of the 5 great beast clans would decide the fate of the little princess. Many beast clans knew this very well. Thus, the atmosphere in the great Peng clan's territory had become somewhat strange. Lin Feng had also heard about this. He had only met the Peacock clan's Saint Lord. Lin Feng felt that the Peacock clan's Saint Lord was quite righteous. The Peacock clan and the Great Peng clan had a deep relationship, so Lin Feng felt that the Peacock clan would stand on the Great Peng clan's side. As for the other 4 great beast clans' attitudes, no one knew. Even Lin Feng had come to the plaza waiting for the arrival of the 5 great beast clans experts. Boom, an earth-shattering shockwave came from the distance. Demonic chi swept through the sky. An expert had arrived. It was a middle-aged man wearing a blood-red robe. His blood-red robe fluttered in the wind, and he had a pair of demonic blood-red eyes that made people's hearts palpitate. Shui Moyun of the Blood Demon clan. Many people cried out. This expert was not simple. He was Saint Shui Yao's younger brother, and his cultivation was at the Great Fortune realm. Boom! Another shockwave came from another direction. A silver-haired woman in white clothes walked over. Her face was covered by a veil, making it difficult to see her face. An expert from the Snow Lady clan? Who is this expert? Someone asked. The Snow Lady clan was too mysterious. It was said that there were no males in the Snow Lady clan, only females. They were as beautiful as fairies, but their personalities were cold. Every Snow Lady would go out to train when they were 3,000 years old. After 1,000 years, they would go to the holy mountain to drink the holy water and give birth to their children. This was how the Snow Lady clan passed on their ancestral line. Now that this Snow Lady had arrived, the entire world seemed to have turned into a world of ice. Many people were trembling from the cold. Is that Qian Piao Shui? It's said that she's a holy maiden of the Snow Lady clan. Even though she's young, her cultivation is unfathomable, a cultivator said. One of the cultivators said. He seemed to know this woman. The Snow Lady clan was different from other clans. Their clan's lifespan was extremely long. It was said that an ordinary Snow Lady could live up to 30,000 years. This race had a lifespan of 2,000 years before they reached adulthood, which was equivalent to 16 years of age for humans. Qian Piaoshui was now 3,000 years old, and it was time for him to come out and gain experience. If he were to convert to the age of the human race, he would be around 24 years old. Of course, this conversion was not reasonable. After all, Qian Piaoshui had cultivated for more than 2,000 years. What an enviable race. They have the longest lifespan in the entire Martial Heaven continent. It's said that the Snow Lady race has lived for over 100,000 years. I wonder if that's true. Someone sighed with emotion, envious of the Snow women's longevity. In the past, there were many cultivators who tried to find the secret behind the Snow Maiden's longevity, but they were unable to find it. Perhaps even the Snow Maidens themselves didn't know why they had such a long lifespan. A high-pitched dragon's roar could be heard as a 1,000-meter-long dragon flew over. It was a heavenly dragon. Its huge body was like a winding mountain ridge, vigorous and powerful. The heavenly dragon transformed into a tall and sturdy man and walked over. The world of mortals is filled with billions of worries. The past is like smoke and dust. What do you want in this life? I'm willing to sing a song with you. A charming laugh rang out in the distance. A woman in a pink dress had arrived. Each of her movements was filled with endless temptation. Countless people's eyes were fixed on her. They had completely lost themselves. Their eyes were lifeless as they stared fervently at the woman in the pink dress. The nine-tailed fox race. What a powerful seduction technique. Lin Feng was startled. This woman hadn't intentionally used any seduction techniques, but she was too charming. Each of her movements was seductive to the bones. This was a natural seduction technique. I've heard that the women of the nine-tailed fox race are all peerless beauties. Now that I've seen them, the rumors are true. Lin Feng narrowed his eyes as he looked at the woman in the pink dress. Her figure was so perfect that it made people want to vomit blood. Her small face was the size of a palm. Not only was she beautiful, but she also had a seductive chi, especially her bright eyes. When you looked at them, they seemed to be seducing you. Any man who saw those eyes would be instantly seduced. At that moment, celestial light flew over from the distance. An old man walked out of the celestial light. He was an elder of the peacock race. His name was Kong Chung. His arrival caused quite a commotion because this old man called Kong Chung had an extremely high status. He was someone from the same generation as the Peacock Sacred Lord's ancestor. It's him. Lin Feng was astonished. Lin Feng was astonished. His expression was strange. That old man was the old beast he had seen in the peach garden. When Lin Feng remembered that he had discussed life and death with that old beast, he couldn't help but break out in cold sweat. Luckily, that old man didn't care too much about it. Otherwise, wouldn't Lin Feng be in trouble? The 5 strong cultivators landed on the square. Mr. Jean was there to welcome them. The great Peng King is in the hidden gate of life and death, so I will welcome you. Mr. Jean cupped his fists and said, "These people didn't stay for long and quickly left. Not long after, they received news that in 3 days, many groups of the monster race would be discussing the matter of the little princess, the holy fetus." Lin Feng and Jin Xingyuan took a walk in the garden. In the distance, Long Yushi was playing with Little Moon. Jin Xingyuan said, "It seems like the top groups can't wait to get the holy fetus, but it won't be that easy." Lin Feng nodded and didn't say anything. On the way back, a group of people came from the distance. A young man in a golden robe was surrounded by people. When Jin Xingyuan saw him, his expression became gloomy. "Who is he?" asked Lin Feng. "The grandson of the Oversea Rock King, Jin Shengfei," said Jin Xingyuan. Saint was Jin Xingyuan's seniority. The young cultivator was called Jin Shengfei, so he was obviously from the same generation as Jin Xingyuan. The Oversea Rock King was one of the overlords of the Oversea world. He was also a member of the golden-winged Great Peng clan. However, he wasn't from the same lineage as Jin Xingyuan. It was like how humans weren't related to each other even though they were all humans. The same was true for the monster race. Even though they were all golden-winged Great Peng clans, they weren't related by blood. "Isn't this Jin Xingyuan? We haven't seen each other in 3 years." Jin Shengfei walked over and smiled disdainfully at Jin Xingyuan. Chapter 1066. "Why are you here? I don't welcome you here." Jin Xingyuan's expression was ugly and gloomy. Lin Feng's heart shook. It seemed that Jin Xingyuan and Jin Shengfei had some sort of conflict. Jin Shengfei said, "Xingyuan, we're brothers of the same generation. Why are you treating me like an outsider? There doesn't seem to be any relationship between us. Why do you have to pretend?" said Jin Xingyuan coldly. Jin Shengfei smiled. "Xingyuan, it seems that you are still jealous of me. Back then, I was only joking. You are too narrow-minded." "Ha!" Jin Xingyuan's expression darkened. "I don't like people who think too highly of themselves." A cold light flashed in Jin Shengfei's eyes, but he quickly suppressed it. At that moment, a young beast cultivator next to Jin Shengfei asked, "Brother Jin, what's the matter? Tell us." "Yeah, Brother Jin, we're curious about everything," said another. Jin Shengfei smiled. "It's nothing. 3 years ago, during a gathering, I mentioned something that happened 800 years ago. You all know that my grandfather, the heavenly Peng King, was an overlord in the overseas world. Back then, Jin Xingyuan's uncle, the great Peng King, was still very young. He was about 17 or 18 years old, or even younger. He went to my grandfather's cave and begged for pointers. He knelt for 3 days and 3 nights, but my grandfather didn't give him any pointers." "Yeah, Jin Xingyuan, what's there to be angry about? The heavenly Peng King is always in closed-door cultivation. When did he have the time to teach your uncle? If you're angry because of that, You're too narrow-minded. Even your uncle doesn't hate you, right? Said someone immediately. Jin Shengyuan's expression darkened. You believe everything Jin Shengfei says? Are you all his dogs? The beast cultivator's expressions became unsightly. Jin Shengyuan, who are you calling a dog? You have to be clear. Everyone knows who's a dog. You still need me to explain? Jin Shengyuan smiled coldly. Dogs should behave themselves. If you're talking nonsense in someone else's house, as the owner, I don't mind throwing your dogs out. The beast cultivator's expressions became gloomy. However, they didn't say anything else. If Jin Shengyuan chased them out, they could only blame themselves for being unlucky. If they were chased out, they would be humiliated. Shengyuan, you need to be broad-minded. If you're so broad-minded, I'm afraid you'll encounter a lot of obstacles on the path of cultivation in the future. It'll be very difficult for you to progress, said Jin. Shengyuan smiled. Jin Shengfei was making fun of Jin Shengyuan. Lin Feng frowned. He had the impression that the great rock king had become a disciple 800 years ago. There's no need for you to worry. Jin Shengyuan snorted. Jin Shengfei curled his lip disdainfully and didn't say anything else. He looked at Little Moon, who was in Lin Feng's arms. This must be the little princess. She's so cute. Jin Shengfei reached out to pinch Little Moon's cheeks. Lin Feng raised his hand to stop him. He didn't like Jin Shengfei, so he wouldn't let him touch Little Moon. After being blocked, Jin Shengfei's face suddenly turned gloomy. He said coldly, "Boy, you dare to block me? Who do you think you are? How dare you stop me?" Lin Feng said indifferently, "Did I stop you? Actually, I saw a fly buzzing nonstop. I didn't think you'd reach out your hand. Are you trying to drive the fly away too?" Uffed. Long Yushi burst into laughter. Lin Feng was mocking Jin Shengfei for being a fly. How could Jin Shengfei not understand? Jin Shengyuan's expression became unsightly. Little Moon said innocently, "Big brother." Little Moon also heard the buzzing of the fly. When they heard Little Moon's innocent voice, Lin Feng, Jin Shengyuan, and Long Yushi smiled. Jin Shengfei and the others' expressions darkened even more. Jin Shengfei said with a fake smile, "The little princess is so cute. No wonder so many people came to visit her. It seems like everyone likes her." Really? Little Moon was delighted. She was still young, so she couldn't tell if someone was lying. Of course. Jin Shengfei smiled sinisterly. Lin Feng frowned. Jin Shengfei's words clearly had a hidden meaning. Those beasts didn't like Little Moon. They were the Holy Beast Emperor who wanted Little Moon. "Let's go," said Jin Shengyuan. Lin Feng nodded. He was about to leave with Long Yushi and Jin Shengyuan. Jin Shengfei smiled sinisterly. "You're that Lin Feng, right? I'll remember you." There was a hint of a threat in his words. Lin Feng pursed his lips. "Many people remember me. Who do you think you are?" "Ha! Are you trying to make me laugh to death?" Long Yushi laughed in an unladylike manner. She had always been so lively. Jin Shengtian laughed as well. Even the beasts around Jin Shengfei couldn't help but laugh. Only Jin Shengfei's mouth twitched when he heard Lin Feng's mocking words. A cold light flashed in his eyes. Lin Feng ignored him. He carried Little Moon and left with Long Yushi and Jin Shengyuan. When they returned, Long Yushi asked curiously that Jin Shengfei talked about something that happened 800 years ago. "It can't be that simple, right?" Jin Shengyuan said, 800 years ago, my uncle was only 16 years old. He had already displayed incredible talent. He shone during the battle of the geniuses of the 3,000 prefectures. After the battle, my uncle went to Tianpeng King's cave to learn. Tianpeng King was the strongest cultivator of the great Peng clan. so he had many disciples. My uncle knelt there for 3 days and 3 nights. Tian Peng King came out and kicked my uncle out. Tian Peng King was extremely talented. Why was he kicked out? Lin Feng didn't understand. Because his talent was too good, said Jin Shenyuan. Lin Feng and Long Yushi remained silent. Maybe Tian Peng King was jealous of Tian Peng King's talent. My uncle didn't say much. After he left, the celestial Peng King spread the news that my uncle was arrogant and disrespectful to him. That's why he was kicked out of the celestial Peng King's residence. Jin Xingyuan's expression darkened. Tian Peng King probably has evil intentions. Lin Feng shook his head. As a member of the great Peng clan, Tian Peng King's actions were naturally despicable. However, Tian Peng King was a powerful cultivator who shook the Tianwu continent while Tian Peng King was only a teenager. Naturally, no one believed that Tian Peng King was innocent. Everyone chose to believe Tian Peng King, so Tian Peng King was cursed for being disrespectful to his elders. Tian Peng King didn't come out to explain himself. It seemed that Tian Peng King's words were even more true. 300 years ago, my uncle was surrounded and injured during his reincarnation tribulation. According to the cultivators who attacked him, it's very likely that Tian Peng King was one of them, said Jin Shenyuan through gritted teeth. Lin Feng and Long Yushi's expressions changed. If that was really the case, then they would have an irreconcilable relationship. Jin, Shenyuan said angrily. Unfortunately, Elder Jin only found some clues and couldn't confirm it. However, I know that Tian Peng King was definitely involved. He's always been jealous of my uncle and naturally doesn't want to see my uncle become the strongest cultivator of the great Peng clan. Jin, Shenyuan talked about many things from back then. No wonder Jin Shenyuan was so jealous of the heavenly Peng King's bloodline. The grudges between them were too complicated. The next day, Lin Feng received news that there would be a gathering of young geniuses tomorrow night. This gathering would gather many of the top geniuses of the demon clan. Lin Feng was also invited. Chapter 1067. The gathering of the young geniuses of the Yao clan attracted a lot of attention. Ordinary people didn't even have the right to participate. Only the geniuses of the Yao clan could participate. They had to be at least at the yin-yang layer. On the day of the gathering, Lin Feng went to the gathering place. The gathering place was in a small town near the gathering place of the Yao clan. The town was bustling with noise and excitement. Many Yao clans had opened all kinds of shops there, and all kinds of things could be bought there. Now that so many Yao clans had come to the territory of the great Peng clan, the town was bustling with noise and excitement. Many people lived in the town. The territory of the great Peng clan was huge. There were 4 or 5 small towns like this in the territory of the great Peng clan. When Lin Feng arrived in the town, he went to the restaurant where the gathering was taking place. He's the human cultivator called Lin Feng, said Lin Feng. On the way, many people kept pointing at Lin Feng and whispering to each other. They obviously knew who he was. Many people's attitudes were meaningful, especially at such a sensitive time. The Celestial Beast Pavilion was the name of the restaurant where the gathering was taking place. People were coming and going, and it was bustling with noise and excitement. When Lin Feng arrived, he was stopped. "You're a human. Are you qualified to enter the gathering place of the Yao clan?" The cultivator who stopped Lin Feng sneered. The Kinwu people were a terrifying race. According to legends, they lived on the Fuso tree. I was invited here, so I'm qualified to enter. Lin Feng looked indifferent. The Kinwu people had a few branches. The first branch was on the East Sea Island of the Golden Crow. Lin Feng didn't know if the Qinwu people in front of him was from the East Sea island of the Golden Crow or somewhere else. Who invited you here? The expert from the Golden Crow clan sneered. The Qinwu people have 3 branches. This is Gu Qingxian from the Golden Crow Island of the South Sea. His clan has a close relationship with the heaven-devouring demonic toad clan, said a cultivator. When Lin Feng heard the cultivator, he knew why he had stopped him. I was the one who invited you. You have any objections? Jin Xingyuan walked over. He was the young master of the Great Rock King race and was surrounded by many people. Gu Tuanshuan said indifferently, "Why is the little Peng King alienating his clan instead of his clan?" Jin Xingyuan said, "What's the difference between humans and demons? The real difference is between friends and strangers." Gu Tuanshuan's expression was indifferent. He didn't say anything else and walked into the restaurant. Jin Xingyuan walked up and said, "The Yao clans aren't close to each other, but there are some clans that are closer to each other. For example, the Great Rock clan is close to the Peacock clan, the Nine-Tailed Fox clan, and the Snow Maidens clan. The Three-Headed Cobra clan, the Sky-Devouring Demon Toad clan, and the Qinwu people of the South Sea are closer." Lin Feng nodded and entered the hall with Jin Xingyuan. As the young master of the rock race, Jin Xingyuan was naturally sought after. Many people came forward to greet Jin Xingyuan. Jin Xingyuan's parents had passed away when he was very young. He had been living with his uncle, the Great Rock King. The Great Rock King didn't have any children. So Jin Xingyuan would definitely become the next leader of the Great Rock clan. In reality, pure-blooded Great Rock clans were extremely rare. Only the Great Rock King and Jin Xingyuan were pure-blooded. The others didn't have pure blood. The first floor was where ordinary geniuses gathered. The second floor was where the top geniuses gathered. The third floor was where the top geniuses gathered. There were private rooms there. Lin Feng and Jin Xingyuan went to one. When they arrived, there were already more than 20 people gathered there. They were all top geniuses from different clans. Lin Feng wasn't very familiar with the clans, so he didn't know these top geniuses. Lin Feng's arrival attracted a lot of attention. Obviously, these top geniuses had heard about Lin Feng. When they saw Lin Feng, some looked at him kindly, some looked indifferent, and some sneered. "This is Lin Feng. I'm sure everyone has heard of him. Let's raise our cups together and toast to Brother Lin. Thank you for escorting the little princess back safely." What do you think? No one had any objections. Regardless of whether they were sincere or not, they all raised their cups and drank. "May I know which clan this Brother Lin is from?" Someone asked. He was very curious about Lin Feng's identity. Lin Feng had been active in the 72 northern prefectures in the past. The 72 northern prefectures were the most barren places in the Tianwu continent. Therefore, very few people paid attention to the 72 northern prefectures. They didn't know much about Lin Feng. Actually, the names of the famous young paragons in the Tianwu continent were known by all 3,000 prefectures. That was because they had shown brilliantly in the Tianwu continent's Battle of Geniuses. Before they had participated in the Tianwu continent's Battle of Geniuses, no one knew about them. After all, the Tianwu continent was too big, and there were too many geniuses. Who knew how much news would spread throughout the Tianwu continent every day? Today, there was news that a certain genius had broken through to the creation realm at the age of 18. The next day, there would be news that a certain genius had become a heaven stage spirit formation master at the age of 20. There was too much news like this, and many of the large factions only laughed when they heard about it because there was too much fake news. For example, the news of Lin Feng being called the Little Stone Saint had spread for a while. However, Only those who had personally seen Lin Feng choose a stone believed in the various legends about the little stone saint. Those who hadn't seen it for themselves didn't believe it at all. After all, seeing is believing, and hearing is false. Lin Feng smiled and said, "I'm from a small faction. Perhaps no one has heard of it before." Everyone smiled and didn't ask any more questions. Many people felt that Lin Feng didn't want to reveal his identity. At that moment, a venting sound came from outside. Soon, someone stepped into the private room. It was a very valiant man with a black cape and eyes that were like stars. Shui Zongxian. Many people were shocked. Shui Zongxian was a supreme genius, the #1 genius of the heaven-devouring demonic toad clan. His arrival caused a commotion. Many cultivators in the private room stood up to greet Shui Zongxian. Shui Zongxian nodded and entered the private room. Soon after, another venting sound came from outside. Soon, a second genius entered the private room. Evil Dragon. His figure was slightly thin, but he was extremely handsome. However, his eyes were long and narrow, giving off a sinister and terrifying feeling. He was the #1 genius of the three-headed cobra clan, Evil Dragon. He was also a supreme prodigy. The arrival of Shui Zongxian and Evil Dragon caused a huge uproar. The cultivators on the first and second floors were all discussing the two of them. The top geniuses in the private rooms on the third floor were very respectful to the two of them. It could be seen how noble their identities were among the younger generation of the demon clan. Chapter 1068. Shui Zongxian and Xie Yaolong sat down. Many people came forward to toast them. The two of them had only had a small taste of the battle. They clearly had a higher status than the others. After all, the two of them were venerables. If nothing unexpected happened, they would definitely become the venerables of the Sky Martial Continent in the future. At that time, who would be able to compete with them? Fellow Taoists, are you here because of what happened recently? Asked Gu Tuanshuan with a fake smile. He glanced at Lin Feng. Many people thought about the conflict between Lin Feng and the three-headed Cobra clan and the heaven-devouring demonic toad clan. Gu Tuanshuan was obviously trying to lead Shui Zongxian and Xie Yaolong in that direction. That's right. Shui Zongxian and Xie Yaolong nodded. Gu Tuanshuan said, "That human brat is in the private room." Said Shui Zongxian indifferently, "Don't we know?" Gu Tuanshuan's heart trembled. He suddenly felt a chill in his heart. Only now did he realize that he had been too smart for his own good. Who were Shui Zongxian and Xie Yaolong? When they came in, even if they didn't pay attention to Lin Feng, they probably already knew that Lin Feng was here. His actions just now were too superfluous. I said something wrong. I'll punish myself by drinking 3 cups of wine. Gu Tuanshuan drank 3 cups of wine in a row and left. He was much more well-behaved. Everyone was puzzled. Lin Feng already had such a deep grudge with the three-headed Cobra clan and the heaven-devouring demonic toad clan. If Xie Yaolong and Shui Zongxian had come to kill Lin Feng, why did they do nothing when they saw Lin Feng? They didn't understand, but they didn't dare ask. There had to be a reason, but they didn't know what it was. I wonder if the holy fetus will really be taken out of the little princess's body this time. If it's taken out with our status, we should be able to get a share of it, right? Said a beast cultivator. He was obviously looking forward to it. By now, these people had long forgotten about Emperor Taiching's kindness and only cared about benefits. Who would care about the little princess's life or death? This is the general trend. It's not something that a few people or a few powers can stop, said another young genius from the Yao clan. He seemed to be implying something. However, someone retorted with a cold smile. The demonic emperor's holy fetus belongs to the Tai Ching emperor's bloodline, not to the various demon clans. What do you all want? Are you trying to take it by force? The bestial clans want to protect the little princess. That's why they want to take the imperial holy embryo out. If they had taken the imperial holy embryo out, there wouldn't have been so many people watching the little princess. Someone immediately said, "This reason was also a righteous one." How shameless! Lin Feng shook his head slightly. No matter how wrong or wrong something was, as long as one intended to do it, one would always be able to find some plausible reasons. In essence, there was no difference between the human race and the demon race, because they were all cultivators. Cultivators valued benefits over feelings. Ha ha ha! At this time, a chuckle came from outside. A moment later, a woman in white walked in. Her arrival caused many people's eyes to light up. The white-clothed woman had an enchanting figure. Her voluptuous figure had a perfect golden ratio. Such a delicate body was simply too provocative, coupled with her charming and beautiful face. Every move she made had a kind of temptation that made people fall for her. A vixen, many people couldn't help but gulp when they saw her. She was a nine-tailed fox. She was naturally seductive. The women of the nine-tailed fox clan were all peerless beauties. They weren't just beautiful. There were many beautiful women in the world. However, only the women of the nine-tailed fox clan had a natural seductive physique. They were every man's dream lover. A woman from the nine-tailed fox clan, Wu Shan. She could make a man feel extreme pleasure. It's her. Lin Feng was slightly taken aback when he saw her. Feng Yaorao. He naturally wouldn't forget this woman. In the past, Feng Yaorao had chased after Lu Piaomiao. She stopped him in the forest and asked if he'd seen Lu Piaomiao. Lin Feng naturally knew where Lu Piaomiao was, but he couldn't tell her. If she found Lu Piaomiao, she would die without a doubt. Lin Feng was worried that she'd search his soul. In a moment of desperation, he said that he'd cultivate to the Yinyang realm within 10 years and that he'd come to propose marriage. At the time, Feng Yaorao had almost killed Lin Feng in a fit of anger. Lin Feng said, "Fairy, are you going to kill someone who admires you?" Only then did Feng Yaorao let him go. However, in the face of Lin Feng's blatant confession, she was still a bit shy. She didn't linger and quickly left. After so many years, Feng Yaorao was as beautiful as ever. Lin Feng didn't expect to see Feng Yaorao in the territory of the monster tribe. No wonder she was so seductive. She was from the nine-tailed fox tribe. In fact, there was one thing that Lin Feng didn't know. When they were heading to the ruins of gods, Feng Yaorao had seen Lin Feng from afar. Feng Yaorao's father was one of the 9 great pirate kings, the heavenly wind god. He was the captain of the demon god pirate ship and the pirate king of the East Sea. At the time, the cultivators heading to the ruins of gods were surrounded by the 9 great pirate kings. It was Feng Yaorao who ordered them not to attack the direction that Lin Feng and the others had fled in. This was how Lin Feng and the others managed to escape. However, Feng Yaorao didn't appear at that time. "Yaorao, you're here?" Shuezong Xian stood up and smiled at Feng Yaorao. He had been pursuing Feng Yaorao this entire time. Of course, there were many reasons for this. Feng Yaorao was indeed very attractive. Secondly, her father's identity was too extraordinary. Furthermore, it was said that the demon god ship was hiding a huge secret. If he could get his hands on Feng Yaorao, not only would he be able to win her heart, but he might even be able to inherit the demon god ship from the heavenly wind god in the future. "Brother Shui." Feng Yaorao bowed slightly. She didn't appear to be very friendly. Fairy Yaorao is still as beautiful as ever. The evil demonic dragon smiled. "Thank you for your praise, Brother Shui." Feng Yaorao smiled. Many people were mesmerized by her beauty. Her smile was so beautiful that it made all the women in the world pale in comparison. There were also a few female monster tribe cultivators present. They were all extremely beautiful, but they paled in comparison to Feng Yaorao. Yaorao, there's a seat here. Sit here. Shui Zongxian smiled. Many people looked at Shui Zongxian enviously. They also had some thoughts about Feng Yaorao. However, they knew that Shui Zongxian was pursuing Feng Yaorao. Who would dare to invite her? Thank you for your invitation, Brother Shui, but I already have a place I like, said Feng Yaorao while smiling in a charming way. She then walked towards Lin Feng and landed next to him. She looked at Lin Feng meaningfully and asked, "Sir, is there anyone here?" Lin Feng looked at Feng Yaorao. He knew that Feng Yaorao had definitely recognized him. However, she hadn't acknowledged him yet, so Feng Yaorao naturally had her reasons for doing this. Lin Feng wasn't so bored as to guess why Feng Yaorao was doing this. He smiled and said, "There's no one here. Is it okay if I sit here?" Feng Yaorao asked with a smile. "Of course," Lin Feng replied. Feng Yaorao smiled and sat down beside Lin Feng. Shui Zongxian's expression darkened slightly. Feng Yaorao had rejected his invitation, so he naturally felt that he had lost face. However, Shui Zongxian was a very thoughtful person, so he didn't show it. Shui Zongxian walked over and looked at Lin Feng, who was sitting next to Feng Yaorao. "I like this place. Now go and find another place," said Shui Zongxian. Chapter 1069. Everyone looked at Lin Feng and Shui Zongxian. Now, Shui Zongxian wanted Lin Feng's seat because he could sit beside Feng Yaorao. However, would Lin Feng give his seat to Shui Zongxian? If he obediently gave up his seat, it would be embarrassing. But what if he didn't? Both sides had a grudge. Now that Shui Zongxian didn't make a move, Lin Feng should feel lucky, right? What if he angered Shui Zongxian? If Shui Zongxian made a move, would Lin Feng be able to withstand Shui Zongxian's anger? These people had heard that Lin Feng was extraordinary, but they hadn't seen it with their own eyes. Because they hadn't seen it before, they doubted Lin Feng's strength. Even though Lin Feng was strong, could he be compared to Shui Zongxian? Obviously, it was impossible. Shui Zongxian had already established his position during the last prodigy battle. What about Lin Feng? Even if he was a new genius, how could he be compared to Shui Zongxian, who had established his position many years ago? Even though it would be a little embarrassing for him to give up his seat, it was the best choice he could make. This way, he could avoid the conflict between him and Shui Zongxian. However, Lin Feng was different from what the demon cultivators thought. The grudge between him and Shui Zongxian couldn't be resolved. Since that was the case, he didn't have to care about Shui Zongxian's face. "This is my seat," Lin Feng said indifferently. "I said that I want this seat. Do you want me to say it again?" Shui Zongxian's face instantly darkened. "I want the jade on your waist," Lin Feng said indifferently. "So, shouldn't you give it to me? You should feel lucky that I didn't kill you immediately. Now, you dare to talk nonsense with me? You really don't know your limits." Shui Zongxian looked indifferent. "Kill me? I'm afraid you don't have that ability," Lin Feng said indifferently. "Then come out and see if I have the ability to crush you." Shui Zongxian looked gloomy. No matter how scheming he was, he couldn't help but feel angry because Lin Feng had embarrassed him. This is a gathering place, not a place for personal fights. If Brother Shui wants to fight, I will have to ask you to leave, Jin Shengyuan said indifferently. "Jin Shengyuan, who gave you the guts to be so impudent?" Just because Shui Zongxian was a paragon sky pride, he could be said to be extremely arrogant and despotic. He didn't even put Jin Shengyuan in his eyes. However, This person's strength was indeed strong. How awe-inspiring. You dare to be so awe-inspiring in someone else's home? Don't you think you're stealing the limelight? Princess Shui Yao walked in. Shui Yao. Shui Zongxian waved his sleeves and said, "This is a world where the strong are respected. Besides, this is the territory of the Great Peng clan, not Jin Shengyuan's clan. Jin Shengyuan is just a little boy. How can he drive me away?" Shui Zongxian's words were filled with contempt for Jin Shengyuan. With Shui Zongxian's strength, unless he wanted to leave, it would not be easy to chase him away. This was because Shui Zongtian's cultivation was too tyrannical. Jin Shengyuan pulled a long face. Shui Zongxian had infuriated him. Shui Zongxian's arrogance made Jin Shengyuan feel wronged, but this was the reality of the world. Strength determined everything. Said Princess Shui Yao indifferently, "Haven't you heard of the saying, 'Don't bully a young man because he's poor'? Jin Shengyuan is a few years younger than you. Anything can happen in the future." "Is that so? I hope that day comes," said Shui Zongxian disdainfully. He didn't continue targeting Lin Feng. He went back to his seat, picked up his glass, and drank some wine. Princess Shui Yao also sat down. Because of Princess Shui Yao, the party didn't become chaotic. Princess Shui Yao's social status was extraordinary because the last great emperor of the beasts was a phoenix. It had only been 100,000 years since then. The great emperor's aura was still there, causing the various demon clans to be extremely wary of the Phoenix clan. "Princess, about the holy imperial fetus," said someone. He wanted to ask about the holy imperial fetus, but he suddenly remembered that Princess Shui Yao didn't want to take the holy imperial fetus out of little Yuyu's body, so he shut his mouth. Said Princess Shui Yao, "I know what you're thinking. Regardless of whether the holy imperial fetus is taken out or not, the beasts must avenge the deaths of Chu Yun and the others." The others fell silent because this wasn't something they could decide. If possible, they didn't want to get involved in this mess. In their eyes, what did Chu Yun's death have to do with them? Lin Feng suddenly realized that Princess Shui Yao and the others were planning to use the beasts to deal with the South Continent's 3 clans. However, he didn't know what their specific plan was. He would have to wait until the various beasts discussed it. The party dispersed in the middle of the night. Shui Zongxian looked coldly at Lin Feng and sneered. "If you walk too much at night, something will happen sooner or later." Lin Feng knew what he was implying, so he calmly said, "You don't have to worry about it." Xia Yao Long looked meaningfully at Lin Feng, then left with Shui Zongxian. Lin Feng frowned. These two were very strange. It was rumored that they had come to kill him, but they hadn't done anything. Could it be that they don't want to fight in the beasts' territory? Is it because they think that they'll be stopped if they fight in the beasts' territory? Is it because they can't kill me? Is that why they're looking for another place? Lin Feng thought to himself. He felt that this was very likely. The crowd dispersed, and Lin Feng returned to his residence. Under the night sky, a cold wind blew. When Lin Feng was about to reach his residence, a fragrant wind blew. "Feng," Yara walked over. "Fairy, were you waiting for me?" asked Lin Feng with a smile. "If I wasn't waiting for you, who else would I be waiting for?" said Feng Yaorao. She was very direct, and she didn't hide her feelings. "Do you remember that I said that I would propose marriage when I reached the yin-yang boundary? I haven't forgotten." Lin Feng looked at Feng Yaorao. "He. You want to propose marriage? Aren't you afraid that my father will kick you out?" Feng Yaorao giggled. This woman's every frown and smile could make people unable to extricate themselves, and they could not help but go crazy for her. Even though Lin Feng was used to seeing all kinds of beautiful women, when he saw Feng Yaorao's mesmerizing appearance, he couldn't help but feel a little restless. Lin Feng stretched out his hand and hugged Feng Yaorao's slim waist. He smiled and said, "You haven't gone yet. How do you know you'll be kicked out? Maybe you'll like me very much." "Let go." Feng Yarao blushed and struggled. Chapter 10:70. Her body was soft and comfortable in his arms, so Lin Feng naturally wouldn't let go of Feng Yarao. He said, "The night is dark and the wind is chilly. I'll block the cold wind for you and use my body heat to warm you up." Feng Yarao blushed and said, "How come I didn't know that you were such a shameless person?" Lin Feng said, "You call me shameless? I just want to be nice to the person I love." "Who is the person you love?" Feng Yarao spat. Lin Feng said, "You, of course." Feng Yarao groaned. "Shameless? I don't know how many women you've said the same thing to." Lin Feng said, "I'm being sincere. I still remember everything you said to me back then. Back then, I said that I would ask for your hand in marriage after I reached the Yin Yang realm. You said that you would wait for me. You can't deny it now." Feng Yarao blushed and said, "Back then, I thought that you wouldn't be able to reach that level. So I said that." Lin Feng hugged Feng Yarao even tighter. Feng Yarao's body was pressed tightly against Lin Feng's. Lin Feng said, "I don't care about that. I only know that someone once said those words, and I've done it. Since we've met here, it's fate. You can't run away from it." Feng Yarao said, "Only a scoundrel would take a joke as the truth. Since you put it that way, I can only admit that I'm a scoundrel." As soon as he finished speaking, Lin Feng covered Feng Yarao's red lips with his. MMM, MMM, MMM. Feng Yarao's eyes widened in disbelief. She hadn't thought that Lin Feng would be so daring. However, Feng Yarao's heart was in a mess. This was because she had never experienced such a thing. No matter how charming she looked on the outside, her heart was like a blank piece of paper. Now that she was kissing Lin Feng, her mind was blank. She had no idea what was going on. Don't know how much time had passed. When Feng Yarao felt Lin Feng's hands began to be dishonest, she woke up with a start and pushed Lin Feng away. "Bastard!" Feng Yarao lifted her little leg and kicked Lin Feng, then fled without a trace. Lin Feng's lips curled into a faint smile, leaving a lingering fragrance on his lips. Thinking back to the intimate contact just now, it was truly wonderful beyond words. He walked briskly back to his residence. Not far away, two people walked out from behind the rockery. These two people were Xie Yaolong and Xue Zongxian. At this moment, Xue Zongxian's face was slightly distorted. "Bitch. Feng Yarao, that bitch. I pursued her for such a long time, but this bitch has always been indifferent to me. Now, she actually took the initiative to throw herself into a man's arms." Xue Zongxian was almost ignited by the flames of jealousy. He wanted nothing more than to tear Lin Feng to shreds. "Tonight, I'll take that bastard's life." Xue Zongxian said fiercely. Xie Yaolong said, "Brother Xue, don't let your jealousy affect your mood. This is the territory of the great Peng King clan. If we attack that bastard, the experts of the great Peng King clan will certainly stop us. You should also know that this bastard has a close relationship with the great Peng King clan, so we must deal with him outside. If we attack him in the territory of the great Peng King clan, we will alert the enemy and it will be much more difficult to take his life next time." Xue Zongxian calmed down a lot and nodded calmly. Time passed very quickly. In the blink of an eye, it was time for the monster race to discuss how to deal with the holy embryo of the monster emperor. This matter was discussed for 3 days, and in the end, the two sides reached an agreement. According to the agreement, after the monster race attacked the territory of the one sect and 3 prefectures to avenge grandmother Chu Yun, All the clans would join hands to take a part of the holy embryo of the monster emperor's origin blood. However, the prerequisite was that the origin of the holy embryo of the monster emperor couldn't be harmed, and the holy embryo of the monster emperor couldn't be removed from the little princess's body. This was the result of the compromise between the two sides. After hearing this, Lin Feng couldn't help but sigh slightly. This was the best result that could be obtained at this stage. The various clans of the monster race began to gather their cultivators to attack the one sect and 3 prefectures. In fact, the one sect and 3 prefectures were also gathering their forces to attack the territory of the Great Peng King clan. The one sect and 3 prefectures wanted to take advantage of the critical moment when the Great Peng King clan was suffering from a Dao injury to attack the territory of the Great Peng King clan. In the past, the Great Peng King clan had been besieged during the Heavenly Tribulation, and the experts of the 4 great clans had attacked him, but they had all been killed by the Great Peng King clan. The 4 great clans had suffered disastrous losses. They had always kept this grudge in their hearts. Now that the Great Peng King clan had a high chance of recovering from his Dao injury, the one sect and 3 prefectures naturally couldn't sit still. The monster race army gathered together, and the cultivators of the one sect and 3 prefectures also gathered together. The two sides immediately clashed. In the ancient forest, a frenzied slaughter unfolded. Elder Jean contacted a dozen beast emperors in the depths of the forest and came to an agreement. These beast emperors launched a beast tide to help the monster race army besiege the experts of the one sect and 3 prefectures. In the first battle, more than 10,000 experts of the one sect and 3 prefectures were killed. This was an extremely huge loss to the one sect and 3 prefectures. The monster race cultivators pursued the monster race army and directly killed their way into the cities controlled by the one sect and 3 prefectures. This kind of battle was quite tragic, and countless people would die. If there were people who deserved to die, there would naturally be innocent people who would die tragically. But this was war. After the monster race conquered one city after another, they began to collect the treasures gathered by the one sect and 3 prefectures. Under the restraint of Princess Shui Yao and the others, the monster race didn't wantonly slaughter the innocent people. If there really was a massacre of the cities, the monster race who was originally in the right would become the unreasonable party. The monster race's morale was greatly boosted, and they continued to attack and conquer the cities controlled by the one sect and 3 prefectures. Ever since the Middle Ages, the ancient southern region hadn't had such a chaotic battle for a long time. Blood flowed for millions of miles, and it was unknown how many people died in this battle. The one sect and 3 prefectures who were not prepared enough were defeated by the monster race army. The one sect and 3 prefectures sent out their ancient powerhouses, but Princess Shui Yao brought the emperor weapon of the Phoenix clan. She joined forces with the monster race experts and killed more than 10 ancient powerhouses. The one sect and 3 prefectures had suffered a great loss. With so many ancient powerhouses dead, the strength of the 3 prefectures had decreased sharply. This bloody battle in the southern region naturally caused a huge uproar in the Sky Martial Continent, because in the entire Sky Martial Continent, it had been 30,000 years since a battle of this scale had occurred. The monster race army even wanted to take advantage of the victory and kill their way into the lair of the one sect and 3 prefectures. However, the one sect and 3 prefectures paid an unknown price to invite the 8 great powers to help them deal with the monster race army's siege. After the 8 great powers joined in, the battle became even more tragic. The monster race army that was originally high in morale suffered heavy losses and had no choice but to retreat back to the monster race's territory. The one sect and 3 prefectures joined forces with the 8 great powers to chase the monster race army all the way to the Sky Demon Forest. The battle between the two sides was incomparably tragic, and the Sky Demon Forest was already flowing with blood. Currently, many places in the southern region were covered in a rain of blood. Even during the day, one could hear the cries of malicious spirits. A cold wind swept through the land, and wandering spirits could be seen everywhere. The entire southern region seemed to have become a ghost town. Chapter 1071. The battle of the southern continent had spread far and wide, but now the battle was coming to an end. The monster race had retreated to the celestial beast forest, but they were in trouble now. The alliance of the one sect, 3 governments, and 8 other influential groups had caused the monster race to suffer great losses. The 8 influential groups that the one sect, 3 governments had invited were very famous. The Yuhua Celestial Dynasty, the Divine Shrine, the Cave of Time, the Godly Axe Sect, the Great Qin Empire, the Supreme Ancient Mahis Sect, the 10,000 Dao Sword Sect, the Spiritual Sect. The 8 influential groups were all at the Supreme Ancient level. Besides, Lin Feng had a deep grudge with the Yuhua Celestial Dynasty and the Divine Shrine. Lin Feng didn't know how the one sect, 3 governments had invited the 8 influential groups to help, but now the 8 influential groups were helping the cultivators of the one sect, 3 governments, and the 8 influential groups to fight against the monster race. The monster race couldn't return to the territory of the monster race, so Mr. Jean started to organize a group of cultivators to help. About 20,000 cultivators had gathered in the territory of the monster race, and they set off to help. Lin Feng also joined them, including Princess Shui Yao, Jin Xingyuan, and the others. Since the start of the war, I'm afraid that many powers have gone completely crazy. Lin Feng frowned. It was hard to say whether the battle was good or evil. Both sides had gone crazy and couldn't stop. The best thing to do was to sit down and negotiate, but obviously the one sect, 3 governments wouldn't agree. The one sect, 3 governments had suffered great losses. Now that they had invited the 8 influential groups to fight against the monster race, the one sect, 3 governments would definitely seize this opportunity to kill the great Peng King. That was the main goal of the one sect, 3 governments. Even though there were many strong cultivators in the territory of the monster race in the southern continent, the one sect, 3 governments weren't afraid of them at all. They were afraid of the great Peng King. They had waited for 300 years, hoping that the great Peng King would die from his injuries. But the great Peng King didn't die, and his injuries might even heal. The one sect, 3 governments were terrified. Therefore, they had to take advantage of this extremely rare opportunity to kill the great Peng King. Greed is human nature. Many things lead to worse situations because of greed, said Lin Feng. The demon lord muttered to himself as he sat on the lonely grave. Their team had been ambushed by experts from the one clan, 3 palaces, and the 8 great powers. Both sides were engaged in a fierce battle. These experts who had come out to ambush them were obviously here to prevent this team from going forward to rescue the demon race army. The battle was intense. In this pitch-black night, the team was scattered. Boom, boom. Suddenly, Lin Feng felt a terrifying aura coming from behind him. Lin Feng had been locked down by 2 experts. 2 experts rushed towards Lin Feng, one on the left and one on the right. The person on the left condensed a subduing immortal seal to suppress Lin Feng. The person on the right slashed out a terrifying saber light, which pierced through the heaven and earth and swept over. The 2 of them cooperated quite well. One of them used a movement-restricting divine ability, while the other used a powerful offensive divine ability. Die, brat! A cold voice sounded. The 2 people that had attacked were the evil monstrous dragon and Shuezong Xian. The strength of these 2 could be said to be unfathomable. Now that the two of them had displayed their tyrannical combat strength, they wanted to kill Lin Feng in an instant. They had not made a move in the demon race's territory because they were waiting for such an opportunity. In the face of these two terrifying attacks, Lin Feng's reaction was fast enough. He took out the 7 treasures glazed pagoda to protect himself. Bang! Bang! The evil monstrous dragon and Shui Zongxian's attacks bombarded the 7 treasures glazed pagoda. One had to admit that these two's attacks were too powerful. This was because the 7 treasures glazed pagoda, a mid-grade Dao artifact, had begun to crack after withstanding the attacks of the 2 experts. Crack! Finally, with a shattering sound, the 7 treasures glazed pagoda, a mid-grade Dao artifact, was directly shattered. This treasure had been with Lin Feng for a long time. It had helped Lin Feng resolve several life and death crises. Now, it was destroyed just like that. Lin Feng felt a heartache. However, Lin Feng did not dare to hesitate. After the 7 treasures glazed pagoda helped him block the attacks of the 2 experts, Lin Feng quickly retreated more than 1,000 meters away. Damn it, we should have killed that brat. The evil monstrous dragon and Shui Zongxian's faces were incomparably gloomy. It's the two of you. Lin Feng looked at the evil monstrous dragon and Shui Zongxian gloomily. The joint attack of these 2 experts was indeed too terrifying. It made him feel the threat of death. Brat, you won't be able to escape today. Your life will be ours for sure. The evil monstrous dragon and Shui Zongxian directly flew towards Lin Feng. The 2 of them wanted to kill Lin Feng. You don't have a chance anymore. Lin Feng's face was cold. If it was a one-on-one battle, Lin Feng was not afraid of anyone. But now that the 2 of them had joined hands, they could kill him. Lin Feng did not intend to continue fighting with them. He used the ultimate skill void travel and quickly left. The Great Void Technique. Shui Zongxian looked gloomy. At the same time, he was puzzled because the Great Void Technique was a technique of the Shangtian sect. It's very similar to the Great Void Technique, but it doesn't seem to be the Great Void Technique. The evil monstrous dragon looked unsightly because Lin Feng had disappeared without a trace. It was impossible for them to chase after Lin Feng. Lin Feng flew out of the empty space 30 li away. He took a deep breath. He had finally gotten rid of the evil monstrous dragon and Shui Zongxian. He did not stop. He flew towards the main battlefield of the 8 groups of influence. At the same time, an intense battle was going on 30 li away. The masked cultivator, Mo Lung, Ying Yuqian, and Huang Fuwuji were attacking Qian Piaoshui. Huang Fuwuji was an uncle of the Yuhua celestial dynasty. Mo Lung was an expert of the immemorial school of Moism. When Lin Feng had gone to the outer realm to train, Mo Lung had secretly killed many people on the flying ship in order to obtain the illusory stone. If it wasn't for concubine Milan, Lin Feng would have died in Mo Lung's hands. Lin Feng had heard that Mo Lung was a rogue cultivator, but now it seemed that the information outside was not accurate. Mo Lung was an expert of the immemorial school of Moism. Qian Piaoshui was indeed very strong. She had fought with the 4 experts for hundreds of rounds without losing. Qian Piaoshui had been looking for an opportunity to escape, but the 4 experts had been targeting her. So, it was not easy for her to escape. Qian Piaoshui was only one person after all. She was gradually showing signs of fatigue. Mo Lung snuck behind Qian Piaoshui without a sound and sent a palm strike towards her. This time, Qian Piaoshui was unable to dodge Mo Lung's attack and was sent flying. Qian Piaoshui was severely injured by this attack. She spat out a mouthful of blood and was sent flying several hundred meters away. Even the veil on her face fell off, revealing a beautiful face that was so delicate that it could be broken by a single blow. However, this beautiful face was now as pale as a sheet of paper due to the injury. Author's note: 7/7. Monthly votes, rewards, recommendation tickets, steamed buns, thanks. Chapter 1072. She had long silver hair, a cold but beautiful face, and a tall and slender body. She was as beautiful as a fairy from the Moon Palace. She was as cold as ice, making it difficult for people to get close to her. The Snow Ladies were mysterious. Apart from a few clans that were on good terms with the Snow Ladies, outsiders knew very little about them, not to mention interacting with the Snow Maidens. This race had always been so cold and distant, keeping people at a distance of 1,000 miles. Isn't that Qian Piao Shui? It was Lin Feng who had heard the sounds of the battle and was hiding in the forest. Qian Piao Shui's peerless beauty surprised Lin Feng. She was breathtakingly beautiful, but Qian Piao Shui was obviously in a bad situation, as she was surrounded by 4 strong cultivators. Lin Feng wasn't in a hurry to help. Qian Piao Shui had been seriously injured, and her fighting strength had been greatly reduced. Even if he rushed forward, he wouldn't be able to save her. A friend's friend was a friend, and an enemy's friend was an enemy. Therefore, Lin Feng decided to help Qian Piao Shui. Of course, he had to find an opportunity to help her. If he couldn't find an opportunity, Qian Piao Shui would have to pray for her own good. Even if she wanted to help someone, it would be under the condition that her own safety wasn't threatened. If her own safety was threatened, she would have to overestimate herself and help others. The 4 strong cultivators' attacks became more and more ferocious. Qian Piao Shui was like a small boat in the middle of the ocean. She could be drowned at any moment. Bang! Qian Piao Shui was sent flying for the second time. She was sent flying a few hundred meters away. This time, her injuries were even more serious than before. She couldn't control her body anymore and fell to the ground. Qian Piao Shui can't fight anymore. She's the Holy Virgin of the Snow Lady clan, so she must have a lot of treasures. I don't want her treasures. I want her as a person. I haven't enjoyed a woman of the Snow Lady clan yet. Mo Lung laughed loudly. No problem. The other three nodded. Obviously, they were not interested in women. After the 4 strong cultivators reached an agreement, they quickly flew towards Qian Piao Shui. Whoosh! Suddenly, at this moment, the void trembled slightly. Lin Feng stepped out and hugged Qian Piao Shui's soft waist. Her delicate body entered his embrace, and a tempting fragrance drifted into his nose. Let me go. Qian Piao Shui bit her pale lips and swung her palm at Lin Feng. Lin Feng grabbed her soft palm and said, I am Lin Feng, the one who protected the little princess to the Rock King's territory. Hearing this explanation, Thousand Piao Shui's hostility dissipated. Lin Feng's right hand that was holding Qian Yarao's waist tightened as he said, Please forgive me for offending you. Qian Piao Shui's pale face flushed red. She lowered her head and did not dare to look at Lin Feng. She allowed Lin Feng to hug her small waist. Lin Feng, it's actually you. After seeing Lin Feng, Mo Lung's eyes were filled with killing intent. TSK. So it's Taoist, Mo, long time no see. How have you been? Lin Feng waved at Mo Lung. Lin Feng's expression and tone made it seem like he was teasing Mo Lung. He didn't seem like a friend who was greeting each other. Mo Lung sneered and said, You didn't take the right path to heaven, but you barged into hell. Since you've come to die today, we'll kill you as well. Mo Lung wasn't the only one who wanted to kill Lin Feng. The masked cultivator's killing intent towards Lin Feng was no less than Mo Lung's. If it hadn't been for Lin Feng, they would have captured the princess a long time ago, and nothing would have happened. The masked cultivator wanted nothing more than to eat Lin Feng's flesh. Huangfu Wuji was Huangfu Qingtian's uncle. He had seen Lin Feng's portrait before. Now that he saw Lin Feng, he was filled with killing intent as well. Lin Feng and Huangfu Qingtian were now enemies of the Yuhua immortal dynasty. As for Ying Yuqian, although he didn't seem to have a deep grudge against Lin Feng on the surface, in reality, Lin Feng, Granny Tianshan, and the Empress had joined hands to take the 3 treasures in the world of the 33 heavenly stairs. Ying Yuqian had always hated Lin Feng, Granny Tianshan, and the Empress. He just hadn't had the chance to kill them. Ying Yuqian smiled indifferently. Lin Feng, you've always been lucky, but today your luck has come to an end, said Ying Yuqian, smiling indifferently. Lin Feng, you've always been lucky, but today your luck has come to an end. The 4 strong cultivators quickly caught up. Lin Feng looked indifferent and said, "Whether or not my luck has come to an end depends on whether the 4 of you can catch up with me." He used a void teleportation technique and quickly left. The Great Void Technique. Ying Yuqian, Mo Lung, and Huangfu Wuji were astonished. They looked at the masked cultivator at the same time. The Great Void Technique was Gongsun Wushu's divine ability. The masked cultivator also came from Shang Tianmen. His identity was mysterious. They even realized that Gongsun Wushu was extremely afraid of the masked cultivator. Ying Yuqian and the others guessed that the masked cultivator's identity was definitely not simple. It's not the Great Void Technique, but there are some similarities. That boy can't escape. I've already locked onto his chi. Let's chase him. After saying that, the masked cultivator waved his right hand, and a small boat flew out. That's a void boat. It can travel through the void. That boy can't escape. The masked cultivator entered the boat first, followed by Ying Yuqian, Mo Lung, and Huangfu Wuji. Lin Feng stepped out of the void 15 kilometers away. Using the void teleportation technique, he could travel 15 kilometers at most. After all, Lin Feng had only practiced it for a short period of time. Not long after he came out, the masked cultivator and the others drove the void boat and rushed over. "Boy, you can't escape." Cold laughter rang out from the void ship. Lin Feng's expression suddenly changed. He hugged Piao Shui's soft body and used the void teleportation technique to escape. However, after using it 5 times in a row, he still couldn't escape from the void boat. Using the void teleportation technique consumed a lot of magic power. After using it 5 times in a row, Lin Feng couldn't take it anymore. He took out a jade leaf stone and refined it. His magic power recovered. At that moment, the void boat was about to catch up. It'll take me at least 10 teleportation techniques to reach the territory of the Yao clan. They'll definitely catch up with me during that time. Lin Feng looked gloomy. Suddenly, he looked into the depths of the forest. It was dark and gloomy. It was emitting a cold chi. The Sky Demon Abyss is said to be a place where demons are buried. There are countless restrictions. Once a strong cultivator enters, they'll die. Qian Piao Shui's face was pale. Hearing Qian Piao Shui's words, Lin Feng's eyes suddenly lit up. He quickly rushed into the dark forest and disappeared. Chapter 1073. Isn't this the Devil Burial Ground, the place where the Sky Demon Abyss is located? Although this place isn't a place of death, there are countless restrictions in the Sky Demon Abyss. Once you enter, you'll die. The void boat stopped outside. They didn't enter rashly. That little brat is very strange. He might really escape. If the 4 of us work together, We should have no problem exploring the sky demon abyss. Even if we run into danger, if we work together and have the treasures we have, it shouldn't be too much of a problem for us to escape. Setting Yu Tian. Setting Yu Tian. He knew Lin Feng the best among the four of them. The other three nodded. The masked cultivator said, "In that case, let's go in and take a look. However, the sky demon abyss is very scary. We have to be careful." After that, the four of them flew out of the void boat. The masked cultivator put the void boat away. After that, they entered the gloomy forest. After traveling for about a kilometer, a deep abyss appeared in front of them. It was more than 10 kilometers long and 4 or 5 kilometers wide. When Xiao Chun sensed carefully, he could vaguely sense two indistinct auras in the deep abyss. As expected, he's hiding here. The four strong cultivators laughed coldly and entered the abyss. Lin Feng hugged Qian Piaoxue and rushed into the abyss. Qian Piaoxue felt much better. She blushed and said, "Put me down." Lin Feng nodded and put Qian Piaoxue down. Qian Piaoxue's body swayed slightly. She almost fainted on the ground. Lin Feng quickly supported her. "Thank you." Qian Piaoxue's voice was weak. Lin Feng took out a medicinal pill and gave it to Qian Piaoxue. Then he said, "We can be considered allies. If we really want to talk about it, we can even be considered friends because of Little Moon. Since we're friends, there's no need to be so polite. This is a healing medicinal pill. Take it, and your injuries will gradually stabilize." Qian Piaoxue nodded and swallowed the medicinal pill Lin Feng gave her. Her pale face regained some color. Qian Piaoxue asked, "Why did you enter this place? This place is filled with danger. Once we enter, we're like turtles in a jar." Lin Feng said, "To others, this place is indeed very dangerous, but to me, it's a paradise." "Paradise?" Qian Piaoxue looked at Lin Feng suspiciously. "Look at the mountain ridges of the sky demon abyss. They look like the spines of two dragons, and then they converge at the entrance. This is called twin dragons spitting pearls," Lin Feng said. Qian Piaoxue looked at Lin Feng strangely. "You know about mountains and rivers? The sky has 9 mountains, and the mountains. Earth. Why was that? That's because dragon veins represent fate. Qi is the source of life. Dragon veins are alive. I heard my aunt say something similar. She said that the dragon veins are alive, and we snow maidens are surrounded by 9 snowy mountains." Qian Piaoxue said thoughtfully, "No wonder the snow maidens had been thriving for so long." Lin Feng sighed and said, "This place is filled with twin dragons spitting pearl. It's filled with restrictions and danger. Ordinary people would feel as if they were walking on thin ice. However, my sect can control the 9 mountains of heaven and 9 mountains of earth. The dragon veins belong to the 9 mountains of earth, so I can control the dragon veins' power. If they dare to come in, I'll make them suffer, even if they don't die." Boom! At that moment, the sound of violent ripples came from not too far away. "They've come in and triggered the restrictions here," Qian Piaoxue said. "Stay here for now and don't move around. Don't touch the restrictions," Lin Feng said. Qian Piaoxue nodded and hesitated for a moment before saying, "Be careful." Lin Feng was slightly surprised. He hadn't thought that an icy beauty like Qian Piaoxue would care about him. He nodded and quickly left. After Lin Feng left, Qian Piaoxue's face turned pink. She didn't know what was wrong with her, but she had said those words out of concern for Lin Feng. For a moment, she felt as if there was a little deer running around in her heart. She was very flustered. The 4 experts were indeed powerful. With their combined strength, they were able to block the restrictions of the sky demon abyss. After the four of them got rid of the restrictions, they continued to carefully walk deeper into the abyss. The four of you, are you in such a hurry to die? Lin Feng stood in the distance and smiled as he looked at the four of them. Brat, you're about to die, and you still dare to talk big. Let's attack together and get rid of him. Mo Lung laughed sinisterly and was the first to rush towards Lin Feng. Soon after, the masked cultivator, Ying Yuqian, and Huang Fu Wuji also rushed over. Lin Feng sneered and raised his right foot and stomped on the ground. The Celestial Master Sect's inheritance, Imperial Restriction Technique. This Imperial Restriction Technique could control all kinds of terrifying restrictions. One after another, seals appeared in the void and swept towards the four powerful beings. You can control the restrictions here? How is that possible? The four experts' expressions changed drastically. The restrictions were extremely powerful. Now that they saw that Lin Feng could control them, their hearts trembled. How could they dare to stay? They blocked the attacks of the restrictions as they retreated. Dragon Vein Awakening. Lin Feng shouted and formed thousands of seals. Runes intertwined and surged into the two dragon veins. Rumble! The earth shook. Roar! Roar! Next, a loud dragon's roar was heard. The two dragon veins turned into two pitch-black dragons. They bared their fangs and brandished their claws as they charged towards the four experts. He can really control the dragon veins. Qian Piaoshue's red lips parted slightly. Her beautiful face was filled with shock. This kind of method was really amazing. It was the first time she had seen it. Qian Piaoshue looked at Lin Feng, who was controlling the restrictions and dragon veins calmly. Her beautiful eyes couldn't help but reveal a strange light. Dragon swings its tail. Black dragon claws. The attacks of the two dragon veins were ferocious and overbearing. It was already very difficult for the four experts to block the attack of the restriction. Now that the two dragon veins attacked again, they were unable to block it. They were directly sent flying. It was as if they were struck by lightning. They spat out blood in midair. Die! Lin Feng jumped up and rushed towards Mo Lung, who was closest to him. He used the Supreme Reincarnation Fist to attack Mo Lung. Mo Lung's expression changed slightly. However, Mo Lung was a top expert among the ancient giants. After a short moment of panic, he regained his composure. While his body was still in midair, he twisted and stabilized himself. Then, he began to condense a powerful divine ability to resist Lin Feng's attack. He condensed an energy ball in his hand and shot it towards Lin Feng. However, Lin Feng had no intention of dodging. He sped up and rushed towards Mo Lung. He wanted to kill Mo Lung. As long as he killed Mo Lung, the four experts would be left with only 3. Their battle strength would be greatly reduced. Then, Lin Feng might even be able to kill all 4 of them in the Heaven Demon Abyss. Chapter 1074. Bang! Lin Feng and Mo Lung collided. Instantly, waves of destructive energy surged out. Mo Lung was indeed very strong. His hasty attack actually pushed Lin Feng back. Then, Mo Lung quickly retreated, wanting to leave the Heaven Demon Abyss. The restrictions here were controlled by Lin Feng, and the Dragon Vein was also under Lin Feng's control. Mo Lung knew that he would be at a disadvantage if he fought with Lin Feng in such a place, so he didn't want to continue fighting. Mo Lung wanted to escape, but Lin Feng wasn't going to give him the opportunity. Lin Feng released countless deployment spells towards Mo Lung. Swoosh! A light flashed in Mo Lung's hand, and a treasure appeared. It was a pitch-black giant ruler called the Dark Demon Ruler. This treasure was a forbidden weapon. Forbidden weapons were a kind of special magic treasure. These magic treasures usually had terrifying destructive power, but they could only be used a limited number of times. Ordinary magic treasures could be used continuously unless they were destroyed. Forbidden weapons were different. Forbidden weapons could only be used 10 times at most. Once they were used up, the forbidden weapon would self-destruct. Forbidden weapons were equivalent to cultivators burning their own lifespan. They could unleash a stronger attack, but the consumption was huge. The power of the Dark Demon Ruler in Mo Lung's hand was shocking. He swept the Dark Demon Ruler at the surrounding restrictions, breaking them one by one. Seeing that Mo Lung was about to escape, a giant dragon suddenly opened its bloody mouth and spat out a ball of dragon's breath. Bang! Mo Lung waved the Dark Demon Ruler and collided with the dragon's breath. It wasn't easy to break the dragon's breath, because the dragon's breath was one of the dragon clan's natural mystiques. Its power was terrifying. Even with the Dark Demon Ruler in his hand, Mo Lung was forced back. Slash! At this moment, 3 treasured swords rushed in front of Mo Lung like lightning, slashing towards him. Lin Feng took out the revered sword tomb and attacked Mo Lung. Mo Lung's expression was gloomy. He had no choice but to block the attacks of the 3 treasured swords. He waved the Dark Demon Ruler at the 3 treasured swords. The Black Dragon Sword and Spring Autumn Sword were swept away by Mo Lung. However, the Wu Death Sword shot out a beam of sword chi that nearly chopped off Mo Lung's wrist. The Dark Devil Ruler in Mo Lung's hand flew out. Devour! Lin Feng took out the Heaven-Swallowing Jar. Whoosh! A powerful devouring power surged out from the Sky-Devouring Jar and enveloped the forbidden artifact, the Dark Demonic Ruler. The Dark Demon Ruler immediately flew towards the Heaven-Swallowing Jar. Come back! Mo Lung's expression suddenly sank. He wanted to recall the Dark Devil Ruler, but at this moment, the 3 swords once again slashed towards Mo Lung. Mo Lung had no choice but to dodge the attacks of the 3 treasured swords, and was unable to summon the Dark Devil Ruler back immediately. Lin Feng's Heaven-Devouring Jar devoured the Dark Devil Ruler. Little bastard, how dare you devour my treasures? Mo Lung's face twisted. Mo Lung, today, not only will I steal your treasures, but I'll also take your life. As soon as he finished speaking, Lin Feng had already rushed forward. The 3 treasured swords started attacking Mo Lung even more violently. The surrounding seals also started attacking Mo Lung. Hurry up and help me! Mo Lung shouted loudly, but the other 3 didn't care about him at all. Lin Feng rushed forward and used the Supreme Reincarnation Fist on Mo Lung's body. Mo Lung was immediately sent flying. Wah! In the air, Mo Lung coughed up a mouthful of blood. The 3 treasured swords had already caught up with Mo Lung and attacked him 3 times in a row. Pooh! 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 Mo Lung's body was pierced by the swords, and then he was hit by the seals. Half of his body exploded. Lin Feng arrived next to Mo Lung and said coldly, "Have you ever thought that you would die at my hands one day? You can't kill me. You know who I am? If you kill me, then..." Mo Lung looked at Lin Feng in fear. Bang! Lin Feng didn't give Mo Lung a chance to finish his sentence. He punched Mo Lung's head, causing it to explode. Mo Lung's headless corpse fell to the ground, but before it could reach the ground, it was completely torn apart by the seals. Lin Feng grabbed Mo Lung's storage ring and put it away. Then, he quickly rushed toward the other 3. The seals and the 2 dragons attacked Ing Yuqian, the masked cultivator, and Huangfu Wuji crazily. However, the 3 were indeed powerful. They quickly rushed out. When they saw Lin Feng rushing towards them, their facial expressions slightly changed. A moment before, They had already seen Lin Feng kill Mo Lung. The three of them clearly understood that if they fought against Lin Feng here, even if they joined hands, they would still die. Lin Feng activated the regal sword manipulation art. The black dragon sword, void death sword, and spring and autumn sword turned into 3 sword beams that tore through the void and slashed toward the 3 experts. The 3 of them gathered their mystiques and attacked. Under the regal sword manipulation art, the 3 swords' power increased tenfold. They directly pierced through the mystiques gathered by Ying Yuqian, Huangfu Wuji, and the masked cultivator, and slashed toward them. Blood splattered, accompanied by a scream. One of Huangfu Wuji's arms was chopped off. A wound appeared on Ying Yuqian's abdomen. Blood immediately gushed out. Only the masked cultivator dodged the attack. Go! The 3 of them didn't dare to stay for a moment. They broke through the seals. Ying Yuqian took out dozens of formation jade talismans and threw them at the 2 dragons. The formation jade talismans exploded, blocking the 2 dragons. Then, the 3 of them took the opportunity to rush out. It's a pity that they got away. Lin Feng frowned slightly. It was indeed not an easy task to kill all 4 of them. Huangfu Wuji, Ying Yuqian, and the masked cultivator rushed out of the sky demon abyss. They didn't leave, but chose to stand guard outside. Damn it, damn it! That little bastard cut off one of my arms. I must kill him. Huangfu Wuji's face was distorted. As long as we stay here, that kid will come out sooner or later. When that happens, he'll die without a burial place. Ying Yuqian's face was hideous. The masked cultivator said, that kid won't be able to escape. He's already a turtle in a jar. After Ying Yuqian, Huangfu Wuji, and the masked cultivator escaped, the 2 dragons turned back into dragon veins and fell silent. The dense array of restrictions also calmed down. Lin Feng returned to Qian Piaoxue. Qian Piaoxue said, I didn't expect you to be able to control dragon veins and turn them into dragons. This ability is really unheard of. Her beautiful eyes shone with a strange light. Lin Feng smiled and said, there are too many kinds of secret techniques in the world. This little trick of mine is nothing. After all, there's always someone better. After pausing for a few seconds, Lin Feng asked, are you feeling better now? Qian Piaoxue said, after taking the pills you gave me, I feel much better. What should we do next? Lin Feng said, those 3 must be standing guard outside. You're injured, so if we go out now, we won't be their match. Let's wait for you to recover first, then we'll work together to break out. Qian Piaoxue nodded. At that moment, a shocking fluctuation came from the depths of the sky demon abyss. The fluctuation was too terrifying. It was as if an ancient demon god had awakened. Lin Feng felt his soul tremble. Heavens! Is there some kind of terrifying existence inside? Lin Feng and Qian Piaoxue looked at the depths of the sky demon abyss in horror. Chapter 10, 75. Such powerful undulations. What's going on? Lin Feng and Qian Piaoxue exchanged glances, not understanding what was going on. Could there be some terrifying existence hiding in the depths of the sky demon abyss? Qian Piaoxue asked. Lin Feng thought for a moment and said, that's possible, but there could also be other reasons. Do you know anything about the origin of the sky demon abyss? The sky demon abyss has existed for many years. No one knows exactly when it appeared or how it appeared. There are no historical records either. Many cultivators have tried to find out the secrets of the sky demon abyss, but they have all returned empty-handed because the restrictions here are too strong. We are only in the outer regions of the sky demon abyss, so the restrictions here are not particularly strong. If we were in the deeper regions, it would be an untouchable place. However, with your ability, It shouldn't be a problem for you to enter. Lin Feng nodded and said, "Wait outside. I'll go in and take a look." Qian Piaoxue said, "I'll go in with you." Lin Feng said, "You're injured. If there's any danger, I might not be able to take care of you." Qian Piaoxue said, "My injuries have mostly healed. You don't have to worry about me. The depths of the sky demon abyss might very well be hiding some secrets." Qian Piaoxue didn't want to miss out on this opportunity. Lin Feng knew what she was thinking. She also wanted to obtain an opportunity from the sky demon abyss. Seeing that Qian Piaoxue was determined to go in with him, Lin Feng nodded and said, "Since you want to go in so badly, come with me. However, you must be careful." Qian Piaoxue said, "Aren't you underestimating me too much?" Lin Feng couldn't help but smile bitterly when he thought of Qian Piaoxue's strength. Qian Piaoxue was a powerful existence who could fight against 4 people by herself. If Qian Piaoxue was not injured, he would not be Qian Piaoxue's match. Now that Qian Piaoxue had recovered from her injuries, she should be able to deal with any danger she encountered. The 2 of them walked into the depths. Just as Qian Piaoxue had said, the deeper they went, the more powerful the restrictions they encountered became. Each restriction emitted an astonishing fluctuation, causing Lin Feng to feel a sense of trepidation. Fortunately, his study of the various secret techniques recorded in the Celestial Master Sect had become more and more profound, so he was able to bring Qian Piaoxue deeper and deeper without any mishaps along the way. Finally, they came to the depths of the Heaven Demon Abyss. Here, array runes intertwined and swam in midair. Floating restriction. Lin Feng was surprised, and then he frowned slightly. "Ah, is there a floating restriction here? Doesn't that mean we can't enter?" Qian Piaoxue was shocked, but she also felt a little regretful. They had already come to the depths, and the secret of the Heaven Demon Abyss might be right in front of them. Now that they had to return empty-handed, she was naturally very disappointed. She looked ahead with her beautiful eyes, but she could not see the restriction Lin Feng had mentioned. Lin Feng could see it because he had the Heaven Demon Snake's eye, so he could see things that others could not. Lin Feng said, "It's not that we can't go in. If you want to go in, you can lie on my back, and I'll carry you there." "You're carrying me?" Qian Piaoxue's face turned slightly red, and she hesitated. Because she was lying on Lin Feng's back, their bodies were naturally very close to each other. To a woman, it was natural for her to be very shy. After all, when her breasts were on Lin Feng's back, the feeling was extremely clear and sensitive. Lin Feng naturally understood Qian Piaoxue's concerns. He said, "You can wait for me outside for a while." Qian Piaoxue bit her red lips and said, "I'll go in with you." Lin Feng nodded and squatted down slightly. Qian Piaoxue lay on Lin Feng's back and wrapped her arms around his neck. Her long and slender legs tightly clamped around Lin Feng's waist. Qian Piaoxue cried out in surprise as Lin Feng held her perky butt. Qian Piaoxue's face was so red that it was almost bleeding, but Lin Feng's expression was normal. He said, "Stick close to me and don't move your head around." Qian Piaoxue nodded and pressed her head against Lin Feng's neck. She could even feel Lin Feng's masculine chi. When had she ever been in contact with a man before? Qian Piaoxue rarely even came into contact with people outside of the Snow Lady clan, let alone men. Now that she was so close to Lin Feng, she could feel the temperature of Lin Feng's body. She could even feel his heartbeat and breathing. This made Qian Piaoxue nervous, but there was also an indescribable feeling. This feeling made her pretty face pink, and her heart beat a lot faster. Lin Feng naturally didn't have the time to guess what Qian Piaoxue was thinking. He had already rushed into the restrictions with Qian Piaoxue on his back. These restrictions were very strange. They floated around in the air, without any rules. The slightest carelessness could cause one to be hit by the restrictions. Lin Feng also felt like he was walking on thin ice. Every step he took was very careful. Fortunately, he didn't encounter any danger along the way. He carried Qian Piaoxue and rushed through the dense restrictions. Lin Feng patted Qian Piaoxue's perky, and said, "You can come down now." Lin Feng was slightly taken aback. His actions just now seemed a little too intimate. He hadn't thought too much about it, but when he came back to his senses, he realized that his actions just now were very inappropriate. Qian Piaoxue's pretty face was so red that it seemed like blood would drip from it. She hurriedly got off his back. In order to cover up his embarrassment, Lin Feng didn't stop. He quickened his pace and walked deeper into the depths. Qian Piaoxue followed behind him with a red face. "Hey, there's a cave abode." Qian Piaoxue pointed to the depths of Heaven Demon Abyss, the cavern of lustful desires. Lin Feng read out the name of the cave abode. He frowned slightly and said, "This cave abode's name is very strange. I wonder who left it behind." Qian Piaoxue said, "This cave abode looks very old. It seems to have been here for many years." Lin Feng nodded and said, "Let's go in and take a look." The two of them carefully entered the cave abode. The cave abode's path was very long. They walked for about 300 meters before a stone door appeared in front of them. The door was closed. The two of them arrived in front of the stone door. The door was covered with a large formation. Obviously, if they wanted to open the door, they would have to break the formation. Lin Feng studied the formation for 6 hours before he managed to break it. After that, the stone door opened by itself. He and Qian Piaoxue entered the cave. As soon as they entered, the stone door closed by itself. Lin Feng frowned slightly, but his gaze was immediately attracted by a treasure in the cave. It was a crystal ball that was placed on a stone pedestal. The crystal ball was light blue, and it emitted shocking waves of energy. Chapter 1076. Could it be that the fluctuations from before were emitted by this crystal ball? Qian Piaoxue looked at the crystal ball with a puzzled expression. This crystal ball did indeed have a mysterious luster to it. Lin Feng rubbed his chin and said, "It's really strange that such an ancient cave would have such a crystal ball. Let's see what other treasures there are in this cave. Then we can study this crystal ball." Qian Piaoxue nodded in agreement with Lin Feng's suggestion, and the two of them began to tidy up the cave. There were a few shelves here, and the first shelf was filled with many porcelain bottles. Qian Piaoxue opened one of the bottles and poured out a pill. "Life pill." Qian Piaoxue exclaimed, "This is a divine grade pill." Lin Feng hurried over. He had heard of the life pill before. It was a pill refined by a deity-level powerhouse, and it could help a cultivator raise their primordial spirit to the divine soul level. The soul of a deity-level cultivator was called the divine soul. A pill like this could be said to be priceless. Lin Feng inspected the life pill, sighed, and said, "This pill's medicinal power has been completely lost. It has become a useless pill." "A useless pill?" Qian Piaoxue's expression changed slightly. The value of a life pill like this was immeasurable. Now that it had become a useless pill, it was worthless. Lin Feng and Qian Piaoxue hurriedly checked the other porcelain bottles. There were dozens of bottles containing divine-grade pills, but these pills had all become useless. Why is this happening? Aren't we too unlucky? There were dozens of divine-grade pills, but now they've all become useless pills. Qian Piaoxue sighed. Lin Feng said, "These bottles didn't have any seals on them, which caused the medicinal power of these pills to dissipate. Why didn't the original owner of this place put a seal on such precious pills? This is really strange." Qian Piaoxue said doubtfully. Lin Feng said, "Something must have happened, which caused the owner to be unable to seal these pills in time." Qian Piaoxue nodded. She also felt that it was very possible. On the second shelf, there were some insights and experiences regarding alchemy, as well as many prescriptions. These things were of no use to Qian Piaoxue, but they were very useful to Lin Feng, because Lin Feng was also an alchemist. On the third shelf, there were many spirit arrays, as well as some insights on spirit arrays. Qian Piaoxue said, "The owner of this cave is really a powerful person. Not only does he know how to concoct medicine, but he's also a powerful spirit array master. Those powerful restrictions outside might have been set up by him." Lin Feng nodded and said, "I took all kinds of medicinal formulas and alchemy experiences. These spirit arrays and spirit array experiences will belong to you." Lin Feng had obtained the inheritance of the celestial master Taoism, so he had no interest in other spirit array inheritances. Lin Feng had no interest in them. "All right," Qian Piaoxue nodded. Even if she had no use for these spirit array inheritances, someone in the Snow Lady clan would. On the fourth shelf, there were only 2 scrolls. The first scroll recorded a divine ability called the 9 Devil Techniques, while the second scroll recorded a divine ability called the Joyful Meditation Technique. After seeing these 2 divine abilities, Qian Piaoxue's face turned slightly red. One of these 2 divine abilities was a cultivation technique, while the other was a dual cultivation technique. Cough, cough. Lin Feng coughed dryly and said, "Could the owner of this cave have been an evil cultivator? Otherwise, why would he have left behind such divine abilities?" After pausing for a moment, he said, "If you're not interested in these 2 divine abilities, I'll take them." Qian Piaoxue spat at Lin Feng and said, "Just destroy these divine abilities. What's the point of keeping them? Could it be that you still want to cultivate that evil dual cultivation technique?" Lin Feng immediately said righteously, "You've misunderstood me. How could I cultivate such evil divine abilities? I just want to go back and study them. I want to see if I can figure out the identity of the owner of this cave through these 2 divine abilities. If I don't find anything, I'll definitely destroy these 2 divine abilities." Qian Piaoxue nodded and said, "Should we go and take a look at the crystal ball now?" Lin Feng put away the 9 Devil Techniques and the Joyful Meditation Technique, then walked towards the crystal ball with Qian Piaoxue. The 2 of them arrived in front of the crystal ball, and Lin Feng said, "I'll try using my divine sense to see if I can discover any secrets." Next, Lin Feng's divine sense entered the crystal ball. His body shook slightly, and he closed his eyes. It seemed like he was comprehending something. Qian Piaoxue didn't dare wake Lin Feng up, as she was worried that she would disturb Lin Feng's state of enlightenment. She couldn't hold back her curiosity, and her divine sense entered the crystal ball as well. The power of 9 Devil Techniques. 9 Devil Techniques. Release the desires in your heart. When Qian Piaoxue's divine sense entered the crystal ball, she heard a bewitching voice resounding in her mind. That power almost made Qian Piaoxue lose herself. She couldn't help but think of Lin Feng in her mind. A moment later, Qian Piaoxue suddenly felt her soft and charming body being embraced by a pair of strong hands. "Piaoxue, I like you." A deep voice sounded. When she heard this voice, Qian Piaoxue's face flushed red. It was Lin Feng's voice. Qian Piaoxue turned around, trying to break free from Lin Feng's embrace, but her lips were sealed. Woo-woo, Qian Piaoxue's eyes widened as she struggled. "Release the desires in your heart. Don't hide your thoughts. Enjoy the most wonderful thing in this world." The bewitching voice resounded in Qian Piaoxue's mind again, causing her to lose herself completely. Her hands involuntarily wrapped around Lin Feng. Lin Feng and Qian Piaoxue experienced the same thing. Lin Feng's godly awareness penetrated the crystal ball, and he was completely lost inside. In the cave, the two of them were hugging each other. They kept tearing at each other's clothes, and their clothes were torn apart piece by piece. The power of 9 devil techniques. It can make people lose themselves completely. It can make people never want to wake up, because lust is the most evil emotion in the depths of a person's heart, and everyone has their own lust. A strange light flashed in the crystal ball, and a mysterious voice filled with seduction came from the crystal ball. In the cave, Lin Feng and Qian Piaoxue seemed to be immersed in endless lust, taking advantage of each other as much as they wanted. P.S. Thank you to Wang Liangong and Wind and Cloud Rising for their 10,000 book coins. Also, thank you to Have You Loved Me, Passion is Exhausted, and the others for their tips. Thank you for your monthly votes and recommendation votes. This is the 5th update. There are still 2 more updates. Manta will write them soon. Chapter 1077. No, my eyes seem to be covered by lust. Lin Feng's willpower was very strong, even though he had fallen into a state where he had lost himself because of the bewitching crystal ball of light. But subconsciously, Lin Feng still had a trace of clarity. This trace of clarity allowed Lin Feng to seize the opportunity to counterattack. He activated the archaic dragonesque elephant art. The lust in his heart gradually subsided. His eyes were blurred. He also began to regain his clarity. Finally, Lin Feng woke up. Qian Piaoxue's hot body was still hugging Lin Feng and demanding. This was really going to kill him. If it were another man, he would have been unable to resist enjoying the passionate Qian Piaoxue. But Lin Feng restrained his desire. He patted Qian Piaoxue's neck with his right hand, and she immediately fainted. It was this crystal ball that made me and Qian Piaoxue lose ourselves at the same time. In our minds, there was only endless lust. Lin Feng looked at the crystal ball with a gloomy expression. This crystal ball was definitely not as simple as making him and Qian Piaoxue fall into endless lust and take each other. There must be something even more terrible happening. It was just that he had broken the lust in his heart in advance and awakened. That was why he had escaped a disaster. Lin Feng did not know what kind of disaster this was, but Lin Feng knew one thing, and that was that this disaster was destined to take his and Qian Piaoxue's lives. Originally, with Qian Piaoxue's strength, she should have broken the lust in her heart one step earlier than Lin Feng and returned to reality. But now, because of her injury, her willpower would also decrease with the injury, so she fell deeper than Lin Feng. At this moment, Qian Piaoxue's long eyelashes fluttered. Finally, Qian Piaoxue opened her eyes. When she saw the situation in front of her, she was stunned. Then she slapped Lin Feng. Lin Feng smiled bitterly. It was really hard to explain. After all, the situation in front of him was naturally a great advantage for a man, but for a woman, it was difficult to accept. Moreover, there was a very important point. Qian Piaoxue's race, but the Snow Lady race. This race was made up of women. They drank the holy water and gave birth to their children. The women of the Snow Lady race would not have any emotional entanglements with any men. Even if he had feelings for her, he would have to cut them off. Therefore, Qian Piaoxue attacked Lin Feng. Lin Feng wasn't surprised. He dodged her attack and said, "Celestial being, I know you're angry, but we're in trouble because of that strange crystal ball. Of course, I'm not trying to shirk responsibility. I'm just telling you the truth. Let's calm down, okay?" Qian Piaoxue's pretty face flushed red as she bit her lip. Her heart was in a mess, and her mind was blank. She didn't know what to do. According to the rules of the clan, he should kill the man in front of him. However, Qian Piaoxue could not bear to kill Lin Feng. "Let go of me first," she said faintly. Lin Feng nodded and released Qian Piaoxue. Both of them changed into new clothes, and the atmosphere became a little awkward. Qian Piaoxue stood not far away. She did not speak, nor did she look at Lin Feng. Her head was lowered, and her long silver hair draped over her shoulders. Lin Feng could not see her current expression or gaze, so Lin Feng did not know what kind of state of mind she was in. Lin Feng turned to look at the crystal ball. His expression was gloomy as he said coldly, "You evil thing! How dare you trick me? Today, I will smash you." He grabbed the crystal ball in his hand and slammed it onto the ground. However, what surprised Lin Feng was that the crystal ball did not shatter after being smashed by Lin Feng. Normally, such crystal balls were not hard and would shatter easily. "If I can't smash it, I will shatter you." Lin Feng took out the black dragon sword and slashed at the crystal ball. Clang! Sparks flew everywhere. It actually did not shatter the crystal ball. What a powerful crystal ball! Lin Feng frowned. The crystal ball's hardness was completely beyond his imagination. "I don't believe that I can't destroy you." Lin Feng took out 2 types of heavenly flames and repeatedly burned the crystal ball. Qian Piaoxue felt the temperature in the cave suddenly rise and turned to look. She could not help but frown when she saw Lin Feng take out his heavenly flames. The snow ladies were naturally afraid of fire, but Qian Piaoxue did not say anything. It seemed like she did not want to communicate with Lin Feng. She just stood not far away and quietly watched Lin Feng use his heavenly flames to burn the crystal ball. The crystal ball's temperature rose higher and higher. "Brat, hurry up and stop. If you don't stop, I will take your life." Suddenly, a sharp and ear-piercing cry came from the crystal ball. It was as unpleasant as the cry of an owl. Then, an ugly human face appeared in the crystal ball, a spiritual body. Lin Feng was shocked. Wisps of black fog surged out of the crystal ball. The black fog wanted to rush out of the heavenly flames enveloping the crystal ball. It was spiritual power, but as soon as it came into contact with the heavenly flames, it was burned and had no choice but to retreat. Fortunately, I used my heavenly flames to burn the crystal ball. Otherwise, if this guy used a secret soul technique to sneak attack me, I would have died without a burial place. Lin Feng took a deep breath and used the 8 divine seals to seal the crystal ball. 8 divine seals. You actually obtained the inheritance of the celestial master sect. The spiritual body in the crystal ball cried out in disbelief. "So what if I did? I will burn you to death today." Lin Feng sneered. "Brat, how about we make a deal? I can teach you a powerful divine ability, but you have to let me go." The spiritual body tried to tempt Lin Feng. "Don't make a deal with him. Such an evil spiritual body will definitely scheme against you. We have already been tricked by him once. Do you want to be tricked a second time? Destroy him." Qian Piaoxue said through gritted teeth. She hated the spiritual body in the crystal ball very much. Lin Feng nodded and looked at the spiritual body in the crystal ball. He sneered and said, "Put away your hypocrisy. Right now, I only want your life." He continued to use his heavenly flames. The heavenly flames were too hot, and the crystal ball began to crack. "Brat, don't listen to that woman. Women are nothing but playthings for men. When a man has great power, what kind of woman can't he get? I can teach you all kinds of great Daos and even emperor techniques. You will become extremely powerful and dominate the world. When the time comes, you will have countless beauties." The spiritual body in the crystal ball continued to tempt Lin Feng. "Women are worthy of everyone's respect. You humiliated women, so you are obviously not a good person. How can a scum like you be qualified to talk about cooperating with me?" Lin Feng sneered and continued to use his heavenly flames to burn the crystal ball. No matter how the spiritual body tried to tempt him, he didn't waver at all. In the end, the crystal ball cracked, and the spiritual body turned to ashes. There are words on the crystal ball. Qian Piao Shui pointed at the crystal ball. Inside the crystal ball were densely packed with words. These words were actually ancient divine characters, which had been lost for a long time. Chapter 10:78. It was unknown what was written on the densely packed runes. In this era, there weren't many cultivators who understood the ancient divine runes, but Lin Feng was definitely one of them. He had learned the ancient divine runes from the Qilin. Lin Feng pieced the broken eggshells together and observed the runes on them. He couldn't help but reveal a shocked expression. You recognize these ancient divine runes? Qian Piaoshue's heart skipped a beat, and she couldn't help but ask. Lin Feng nodded and said, I know a thing or two about ancient divine runes. Qian Piaoshue asked curiously, Then what's written on it? Lin Feng said, 3,000 great Daos. Qian Piaoshue's beautiful eyes suddenly lit up, and she asked, Which of the 3,000 great Daos? The art of great desire. Lin Feng said. Qian Piaoshue's pretty face turned slightly red, and she couldn't help but spit at Lin Feng. Said Lin Feng, smiling wryly. According to the records, this crystal ball is called the Desire Crystal Ball. It was created by a strong cultivator called the Evil Lord of Desire. I don't know if the Evil Lord of Desire is the same soul as the one who died before. Regardless, it doesn't matter now. The art of great desire recorded in this crystal ball is the greatest secret of this place. Qian Piaoshue asked, Apart from the art of great desire, are there any other records of the 3,000 great Daos? There's only one. If you're not interested, I'll cultivate it myself. Lin Feng said. Qian Piaoshue snorted. Who says I'm not interested? Although the name doesn't sound very nice, the value of any of the 3,000 great Daos is immeasurable. Every time one of the 3,000 great Daos is cultivated, their cultivation will increase greatly. Since the art of great desire is also one of the 3,000 great Daos, I'll naturally cultivate it. Lin Feng nodded and said, Since you want to cultivate the art of great desire, I'll use modern words to translate the ancient divine runes for you. Heal your injuries first. By the time you wake up, I'll probably have translated the art of great desire's cultivation chant. Qian Piaoshue nodded and walked to a dry place. She took out a futon and sat cross-legged on it. Then she began to circulate her energy to heal her injuries. Lin Feng took out a jade tube and imprinted the formula of the great technique of desire on it with his godly awareness. It didn't take long for Lin Feng to successfully imprint the entire cultivation method of the great desire technique. At this moment, Qian Piaoshue was still recuperating. Lin Feng decided to comprehend the great desire art. The art of great desire was a rather special divine power among the 3,000 great Dao. This 3,000 great Dao had no offensive power, but it could make a person lose himself. Just like Lin Feng and 1,000 Piaoshui before, they were devoured by endless desire. Of course, the great desire technique contained many desires, and lust was only one of them. Other than lust, it also included greed, lust, evil desires, and so on. Desire was born from the negative emotions in a person's heart. The art of great desire stimulated the desire in a cultivator's body, allowing the desire to devour the will and make the cultivator lose himself. This method was not only strange, but also terrifying. After all, humans had 7 emotions and 6 desires. Since there were 7 emotions and 6 desires, the art of great desire could lure out the desires in a person's heart. The next day, Qian Piaoshue finally recovered from her injuries. Although her injuries were not completely healed, they should be 80 to 90% healed. Lin Feng handed the jade cylinder to Qian Piaoshue. Then, The two of them walked out without stopping. "I need to carry you again." Lin Feng pointed at the area in front of them that was densely covered with floating restrictions. Qian Piaoxue nodded with a red face and lay on Lin Feng's back again. Lin Feng carried Qian Piaoxue out. After leaving the floating restriction area, Qian Piaoxue came down. Qian Piaoxue, who was originally injured, had a trace of a pitiful aura in her coldness. Now that her injuries were almost healed, she had become an ice beauty again. Her body emitted an aura that repelled people thousands of miles away. Lin Feng could clearly feel the coldness from Qian Piaoxue's body. Of course, Lin Feng did not care. He knew that Qian Piaoxue's race was destined to not have much to do with men. As for the entanglement in the cave, if he could forget it, he would just treat it as a dream. The two of them quickly came to the exit and rushed up. Boom! As expected, they were attacked as soon as they came out. The masked cultivator, Ying Yuqian, and Huangfu Wuji all used their powerful attacks to attack Lin Feng and Qian Piaoxue. The masked cultivator used Army of Thousands. In the void, war drums beat and battle cries shook the earth. The black fog rolled and condensed into an army of thousands, crushing Lin Feng and Qian Piaoxue. Ying Yuqian used limitless purgatory, creating a purgatory world. It enveloped Lin Feng and Qian Piaoxue, wanting to devour them. Huangfu Wuji used a unique skill called all-encompassing forest. This skill was also very powerful. It condensed all kinds of things, such as Buddhas, demons, immortals, ghosts, gods, etc. They all appeared and suppressed. The attacks of the three experts were indeed powerful. Lin Feng and Qian Piaoxue immediately felt like they were a small boat in a storm. They could capsize at any time. Die! The three experts laughed. The three strong cultivators grinned ferociously. They could already see Lin Feng and Qian Piaoxue dying under their attacks. It's too early to be proud. 4 ferocious cauldron. Come out. Lin Feng was already prepared. When the 3 experts attacked, he took out the 4 ferocious cauldron. This treasure was as hard as a divine weapon, but it was not easy to activate. But now that Lin Feng and Qian Piaoxue worked together, they could activate it for a short time. The two of them entered the 4 ferocious cauldron. At that moment, the masked cultivator, Ying Yuqian, and Huangfu Wuji attacked. Clang, 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 the attacks of the 3 experts landed on the 4 ferocious cauldron, but they were all blocked by the cauldron. Lin Feng and Qian Piaoxue were inside the 4 ferocious cauldron. In a flash, the 4 ferocious beasts on the 4 ferocious cauldron came back to life and roared. Whoosh! The 4 ferocious cauldron turned into a black ray of light and rushed towards Huangfu Wuji. Huangfu Wuji had lost an arm, so he was the easiest target to break through. When the 3 experts saw that Lin Feng and Qian Piaoxue wanted to break through, they hastily took out their weapons and attacked the 4 ferocious cauldron. However, the 4 ferocious cauldron had already been activated. Once such a huge cauldron flew up, the impact would be terrifying. The 3 experts took out their weapons and were sent flying. Then, the 4 ferocious cauldron arrived next to Huangfu Wuji. Huangfu Wuji couldn't dodge in time and was hit by the 4 ferocious cauldron. With a loud bang, Huangfu Wuji's body exploded into a bloody mist. The 4 ferocious cauldron had actually killed a tyrant. Chapter 10, 79. Lin Feng hadn't expected the cauldron to be so powerful. Huangfu Wuji was an ancient overlord, yet he was killed just like that. The power of the cauldron was beyond imagination. Lin Feng was very happy. It seemed that the cauldron was much more valuable than he had imagined. Lin Feng wanted to continue using the cauldron to kill Ying Yuqian and the masked cultivator, but he knew that it was too difficult to use the cauldron. Ing Yuqian and the mass cultivator were already prepared, so it wouldn't be easy to kill them. On the other hand, he and Qian Piaoxue would be constantly exhausted. If they exhausted too much of their energy, they wouldn't be able to use the cauldron anymore. At that time, they would be attacked by Ing Yuqian and the masked cultivator. Lin Feng and Qian Piaoxue used the cauldron to leave quickly. They finally got rid of Ing Yuqian and the masked cultivator and returned to the demonic beast territory. The Allied army and reinforcements had already returned to the demonic beast territory, and the army was resting. However, the demonic beast territory was filled with sadness. Someone infiltrated the demonic beast territory and infiltrated the great Peng King's life and death chamber. The great Peng King's seclusion was interrupted, and he suffered a serious backlash. Lin Feng saw Long Yushi and said with a sad expression, "What? How could this be?" Lin Feng's expression changed greatly. The great Peng King's Dao injury had reached a critical point, and he couldn't be disturbed. Now that his Dao injury had caused a backlash, wouldn't he die without a doubt? Lin Feng said gloomily, "How could someone infiltrate the demonic beast territory? Could it be that there's a spy?" That's right. It's the gold-biter rats. They acted as spies and secretly opened the entrance when the great Peng King's territory was relatively empty. Long Yushi said, the gold-biter rats were a branch of the demonic beasts of Nanzhou. They weren't particularly strong. Moreover, they were usually very cautious, so no one would pay attention to them. Who would have thought that they had been bought over by the clan and 3 mansions? What about the people who ambushed the great Peng King? Lin Feng asked in a deep voice. All of them are deaf warriors. There are 2 powerhouses who are at the level of ancient giants. They are Gong Sun Qing from the Upper Heaven Gate and Zhong Xingzhen from the Zhongzheng clan. Although they were killed by the great Peng King, the great Peng King also. Long Yushi sighed, feeling dejected. For the next few days, the atmosphere in the demon race's territory was very tense. Lin Feng didn't even manage to see Jin Shengyuan. The elders of the demon race opened the altar and offered sacrifices to the heavens. Many demons came and knelt around the altar. The great Peng King is young and promising. He is an upright man. I beg the heavens for mercy. Please don't let him die young. An old monster cried and led everyone to pray, hoping that the great Peng King would be safe. Lin Feng stood in the distance, his countenance dim. He couldn't forget the great Rock King's magnificence, nor could he forget the great Rock King's amiability. It was truly heartbreaking for such a close elder to be on the brink of death. Bad news spread. The great Peng King's injuries could no longer be suppressed. That day, the great Peng King walked out, his face pale. He had gone to many places in the demon race's territory and met many people. The great Peng King seemed to want to see the great Peng King's territory one last time. Many demons wept. In the past, the demons of Nanzhou had been suppressed by the 3 governments. It was the great Peng King who had provided refuge for the demons of Nanzhou. Therefore, many people treated the great Peng King as their savior. But now, the great Peng King had reached the end of his life. Elder Jin, there is no place for us demons in Nanzhou anymore, said the great Peng King. He coughed up a mouthful of blood. The demons around him wept. I know, said Elder Jin. We've already started to move. We're taking a space-time boat to the demon continent. The demon continent was still the most powerful continent of the demon race. There, they could be protected. The 3 governments and the 8 great powers had surrounded the demon race's territory, but they didn't immediately launch a large-scale attack because the great Peng King was still alive. They were afraid. All right. The great Peng King nodded. I watched the great Peng King grow up. He was humble and courteous. When he was 18, he shouldered the responsibility of reviving the great Pung King's territory. He didn't disappoint his people. Step by step, he became a peerless cultivator. But now, the great Pung King is going to die. Why is the heavens so unfair? Good people don't live long. Bad people live freely. On the way back, Lin Feng saw an old beast who burst into tears. He couldn't help but feel sad. 300 years ago, the demon race had wanted to elect the great Pung King as the leader of the great Pung King's territory. They wanted to restore the glory of their ancestors, but the great Pung King had been plotted against during his tribulation. The great Pung King's life had changed because of that. At night, Lin Feng went to find Jin Xingyuan. He was sitting alone in the courtyard, drunk. When I was very young, my parents were killed overseas. It was Uncle who arrived in time and saved me. He killed the people who killed my parents. Since then, I have always been by Uncle's side. Uncle is the only family I have left. Now, Uncle is going to leave me. Jin Xingyuan was very sad. The great Pung King's clan had more than 20 members, and their bloodlines were quite distant. Although they were from the same clan, they weren't relatives. Ever since his parents had died, the great Pung King was Jin Xingyuan's only blood relative. Lin Feng knew how close Jin Xingyuan was to the great Pung King. Now, Lin Feng didn't say anything. He sat aside and listened quietly. The death of a family member was a huge blow to anyone. Back then, his third uncle, Lin Xiong, had been killed by Dugu Outyen in order to save him. Lin Feng would never forget that. Even though so many years had passed, Lin Feng still felt pain in his heart every time he thought about it. Therefore, he could understand Jin Xingyuan's sadness at that moment. Lin Feng couldn't persuade Jin Xingyuan, so he drank with him. The two of them drank until dawn. Dong, dong, dong. At dawn, 9 deep and sorrowful sounds echoed in the demon race's territory. Could it be? Lin Feng stood up. His expression changed. It was the sound of a death bell. 9 death bells meant that someone had passed away. Uncle! Jin Xingyuan rushed to the great Pung King's residence. Lin Feng also flew over. When they arrived, many people had already gathered. Lin Feng saw Long Yushi and some other juniors crying. They weren't qualified to enter. Only the higher-ups of the various factions were qualified to enter and see the great Pung King for the last time. Why did it turn out like this? The great Pung King had a chance to recover from his injuries, but now he's dead. They're all from the same clan. If it weren't for them, the great Pung King wouldn't have died so tragically. Some old monsters were heartbroken. Woo, woo, woo. The entire demon race's territory was filled with sorrow. The great Pung King's glorious but short life ended just like that. Chapter 1080. A cold wind started blowing and drizzling. The whole territory of the Goblin clan was silent and sad. Mr. Jean was still in charge of the relocation of ordinary Goblin clan's territory. More than half of them had already left. But at that moment, the 1 sect, 3 governments, and 8 influential groups started attacking the territory of the Goblin clan. King Zhanpeng is dead. Now is the best time to destroy the Goblin clan of the South Continent, shouted a strong cultivator from the top of the army of the 1 sect, 3 governments, and 8 influential groups. They were mobilizing the strong cultivators of the 1 sect, 3 governments, and 8 influential groups. Kill them! The cultivators of the 1 sect, 3 governments, and 8 influential groups started attacking the territory of the Goblin clan in a frenzy. There are still many people who haven't been relocated. Mr. Jean, the Goblin clan's deployment spells won't last much longer, said an elder of the Goblin clan. Cultivators who know how to use deployment spells, go and help them. Try to stall for time, said Mr. Jean. There were still 30 to 40 million people in the territory of the Goblin clan. Once the one sect, 3 governments, and 8 influential groups attacked, they would all be slaughtered. Every minute, every second was related to the safety of countless people. We need the blood of the Holy Imperial Child's origin. We have to leave quickly. This battle has nothing to do with us anymore, said the Goblin clan's leader. The higher-ups of the 3-headed Cobra clan and the heaven-devouring demonic Toad clan said they were unwilling to stay and fight with the cultivators of the 1 sect, 3 mansions, and the 8 great forces. We have to leave too. Take out the blood of the Holy Imperial Child's origin, said the strong cultivators of the Blood Demons and the Heavenly Dragon clan. Here's a bottle of origin blood. You can divide it among yourselves. Princess Shui Yao appeared and took out a bottle of origin blood. That's too little. Are we beggars? The strong cultivators of the Goblin clan looked glum. A drop of origin blood is extremely precious. That's a lot. If you don't want it, you can give it back, said Princess Shui Yao coldly. Forget it. We can't argue here. As long as the little princess doesn't die, we'll still have a chance to get the origin blood. We're not in a hurry. That's right. If we want more origin blood, we'll have plenty of opportunities. As the higher-ups of the various forces were chatting, the cultivators from the 4 major Yao forces and tens of other Yao forces, big and small, charged into the teleportation valley. Scram! Let us go first. They were very rude and swept away those who wanted to board the ancient ship. Some who were already on the ship were thrown out as well. This is too much. Many of the great rocks were so angry that they were gnashing their teeth. Elder Jean said, "Now is not the time to fight with them. Let them leave first." The others could only suppress the anger in their hearts. Lin Feng raised his eyebrows and looked at Princess Shui Yao. Is it really the Demon Emperor's holy embryo's origin blood? This was because Lin Feng recalled the scene when he tried to take the Demon Emperor's sacred fetus origin blood. He had almost died, and it was already so difficult to take 1 drop, let alone a bottle. Princess Shui Yao replied, the blood of a subterranean giant demon was mixed with some things, and its aura is very similar to the origin blood of the Demon Emperor's sacred embryo. Lin Feng said, when these people find out that they've been deceived, they'll definitely fly into a rage. This enmity will be formed. These people have evil intentions. When they tried to take Little Moon, they had already shed all pretenses of cordiality. Even if they find out, it's fine. The only pity is that we didn't let them stay behind to fight against the people from the 1 sect, 3 governments, and 8 great powers. Princess Shui Yao said, these people are all scheming and astute. I'm guessing that they want to leave first, then find another opportunity to take Little Moon's sacred fetus origin blood. I've seen too many people like this. Lin Feng said, they won't have that opportunity. Princess Shui Yao said, boom, boom, boom. The restrictions around the entire territory of the Yao clan shook violently. Obviously, the experts from the 1 sect, 3 governments, and 8 great powers were not far from breaking through the restrictions. There are still tens of millions of people left. I'm afraid we won't be able to evacuate them. An elder of the Yao clan said with an ugly expression, if they couldn't evacuate them, tens of millions of people would be massacred. This was something that no one wanted to see. I'll go and support them. Take Little Moon and leave first. Lin Feng looked at Princess Shui Yao. Let Yushi take Little Moon away. I'll stay. Princess Shui Yao said, that's good too. Lin Feng thought about Princess Shui Yao's great imperial weapon and nodded. Thank you, little friend. Elder Jean cupped his fists. Elder Jean, you're too polite. Lin Feng flew into the distance. He arrived at the entrance of the Yao clan's territory and strengthened the formation with the help of over 100 elders. With Lin Feng's help, the formation began to stabilize. The formation, which was about to be broken, was suddenly strengthened. The higher-ups of the one sect, 3 governments, and 8 great powers looked gloomy. Push out the formation-breaking dragon chariots. An expert waved his hand. Immediately, 10 gigantic formation-breaking dragon chariots were pushed out. Each chariot required over 100 people to move. Bang, bang, bang. The formation-breaking dragon chariots kept hitting the restrictions at the entrance of the Yao clan's territory. 6 hours later, Kacha, not good. The formation is about to be broken. The faces of some of the monster clan elders changed drastically. The breaking of the formation was already something that could not be stopped. The attacks of the experts of the one sect, 3 governments became even more violent. Kacha, more and more cracks appeared on the formation. Finally, the formation could not hold on any longer and was torn apart. The entrance of the Yao clan's territory, which had been hidden by the formation, was also exposed. Kill everyone in the Yao clan's territory. Don't leave a single one alive. Take all the treasures. The experts of the one sect, 3 governments, and 8 great powers shouted loudly. Countless cultivators rushed into the Yao clan's territory and fought with Lin Feng and the others. Retreat, shouted a Yao elder. The cultivators resisted the attacks of the one sect, 3 governments, and 8 great powers while retreating. In the end, they regrouped with Elder Jean and the others. The Yao clan still had 30,000 cultivators. The one sect, 3 governments, and 8 great powers had 150,000 cultivators. 30,000 cultivators against 150,000 cultivators. The difference in power was too great. However, everyone knew that they could not retreat. For many of the Yao clan members, their loved ones were gathered in the teleportation valley behind them. If they retreated, their loved ones would die tragically. For our clansmen, for our loved ones, kill, shouted Elder Jean. Annihilate the Yao clan. The higher-ups of the one sect, 3 governments, and 8 great powers waved their swords. Rumble, the ground shook violently. The army of the one sect, 3 governments, and 8 great powers all rushed over. Immediately, the 2 sides engaged in a chaotic battle. Blood splattered everywhere. Corpses fell from the sky. The entire Yao clan's territory was covered in blood.